Good evening and welcome to the Pac-12 Chat Show Live here on the Voice of College Football channel. My name's Tony. I'm here with Tim, Rick, and Chris, and we're excited to talk to you tonight about Week 10 of Pac-12 football. Welcome, guys. Now, just like every week, we want this show to be about you guys. So we're going to go through and talk about the games coming up and some of the top issues of the week, and then we want to interact with you guys. And there's a couple ways that we want to do that. So first of all, most importantly, we want you guys to call in the show. So as we get kind of a little further in, we're going to put a link in. All you do is click on that link, tell it okay to access the microphone and stuff, and you'll call in and we'll get to chat with you on the show live. The other way is that you can interact with us in the chat. So everybody in your YouTube chat screen, you can chat with us there. And then lastly, and perhaps alternatively for some of you guys, you can always tweet at us as well. Now, if you want to help support the show, there's a few ways you can do that. Check out the description. You'll have links and stuff like that. You can reach us via Super Chats here on YouTube. Just click on the little $sign, and that goes straight to help Mark Rogers and the Voice of College Football channel with putting on shows like this, and it means a lot. It does everything for us. We really appreciate it. The next thing that you can do is you can always get us with Venmo or PayPal or anything like that, and then we get that. That helps support the show as well. So we really, really appreciate it. So without further ado, let's bring in the gang. Guys, here we go. We got another week. Now, before we get into it, one of the big news items of the week, everybody who follows John Wilner and John Canzano knows the patron saint of the Pac-12 has spoken. Bill Walton has said, UCLA, don't go anywhere. Guys, who wants to tell us kind of what went on and tell me, what do you guys think? Is this just more political blustering, or are we in for a little bit of shock here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm of opinion that it's political blustering. I think it's interesting that first you have the leaked letter to the regents from the commissioner to the regents like a week ago that, I put quotes around leaked, so to speak, because I think there might have been some intention in having that get out there. And then, secondly, that's followed up by this article and podcast that was hyped up by Canzano for like a week beforehand or a couple of days beforehand. It is breaking news. And it's this Walton interview. And I get it in the sense that, look, as a UCLA person, I prefer to be in the Pac-12 from like a history, et cetera, standpoint, right? But also I think the financial need and the reality of the situation, sort of requires us to go. So I understand where Bill's coming from on that front, but the rest of it feels like, even in the article in the Mercury News from Wilner that says like, oh, the regents are going to decide on whether to let UCLA go or not. But once you actually read that article, there's no agenda set, and that agenda is public, and it's not actually there's no agenda out there saying that they're actually going to even talk about it. Maybe Wilner has more sources than us, and I'm sure he does, but there's no actual evidence in the article. It seems like posturing from the powers that be in certain places to get that narrative out that like to other people that care, oh, look, we're trying to keep UCLA here. But there's a few reasons why I don't think it would happen, namely the regents opening itself to a ton of legal liability. And secondly, even if they try to stop UCLA, I don't know, UCLA is part of the regents itself. So there's this like weird issue of them like suing themselves to an injunction to stop it from happening. I don't even know how you go about doing things. There's maybe some things with the purse, the power of the purse, so to speak, and funneling money to Cal for it, which I think is a little bit of talking out of both sides of your mouth, in the sense that like on one hand they're saying like, oh, we're gonna there's this idea of making UCLA pay part of Cal's loss of funds from UCLA leaving and the media contract difference to support Cal's athletic program through the regents doing that to UCLA. But on the other hand, they're also saying, you have the commissioner of the Pac-12 saying like, oh, this deal isn't actually financially positive for UCLA. So if it's not financially positive, what money can we actually, give them? I think it's a lot of hot air. And other people can talk about it as well. Obviously, if you guys have any thoughts, but I think it's a lot ado about nothing. I'd be shocked if something actually happened in terms of us not leaving. But there's articles out there.
I totally agree with you. And in fact, I would add another thing. So there's a thing next Tuesday. It's called an election. And there's a lot of politicians that are desperately seeking campaign contributions and not to anger campaign contributors. There's a lot of rich people who went to Cal and Stanford. There's a lot of campaign contributors and a lot of voters in the Bay Area. What I think we've seen is a lot of blustering. I don't think it'll actually result to anything. Remember, guys, when you think about the University of California as a whole, and we'll show some numbers of this later, the Big Ten is going to add a net positive of about $50 million a year towards UCLA. The University of California Office of the President has shown that they believe that UCLA's cost to Cal is only $3 million. Now, if UCLA were to stay, LA Market goes in, there's a little more value in there, but in general, the University of California loses out big time as a whole, the entire university system, if they were to do something to intervene here. So they have the power. I'll tell you, I worked in government for a long time. And the thing is typically when government wants to do something big or stop something, government stops something. When government wants to just like bluster about something for a while, they bluster about something for a while. And all we've seen is basically blustering about something for a while. To somebody who just asked in the chat, they said, if UCLA doesn't go to Stanford, go instead. Certainly nothing official on that. I would think yes. I don't think it's probably a likely scenario. I mean, we're talking like 2% chance, but I think that if something were to happen, that's probably what would go on. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think Ben had the question. Thanks for joining, Ben. I just think it's pure speculation at this point. We don't know. And I agree with you, Tony. It's just a bunch of government blustering. Ironically, in California, there's going to be, throughout the country, there's going to be midterm elections next Tuesday. So is this Governor Newsom just creating a distraction to curry more voters wherever he can? I don't know, for his party. Who knows? But I highly doubt that UCLA is going to be blocked by the UC Board of Regents, but that's just my opinion.
I think you're right, LBC.
Yeah, I mean, I think to add to that, they're going. I mean, it would be if they care about their football program, athletics in general. UCLA and where they were and their situation, money was tight. All of a sudden, joining the Big Ten, all that goes away. It's a no-brainer. They're not staying.
I just think it's ironic that Bill Walton spoke 4 months after the news actually broke. Did somebody just like contact him and say, "Hey, Bill, why don't you go ahead?"
Maybe he was busy with the Grateful Dead. I mean, he's been yelling daily at the homeless people in San Diego.
Who knows? But you just got to go ahead, as Bill would probably say, rub the tea leaves, get in your yoga position, and feel where the vibe is coming from, right? And this is all too ironic. And so that's eeks of desperation. UCLA is going to the Big Ten. They'd be stupid not to.
I did laugh. He did have one funny comment in there. One good Bill Walton line. I don't know if he wrote it or somebody else wrote it. But he said, "I've never heard of someone claim economic hardship in Los Angeles and that the solution lies in the Midwest."
Does he forget?
There's also
Berkshire Hathaway is in Nebraska.
That's true. They're in Big Ten country. Very true. Good point, LBC. Good point.
Hey, that's what you get here on Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, Pac-12 weekly live chat show.
We get LBC tells the truth. I like it.
Bill Walton, keep on toking, brother.
And he is, no doubt about that. All right, guys, let's get into some games. Friday night, guys, I think this is going to be a wild game. And not only that, but there is going to be descending on Husky Stadium in typical Pacific Northwest fashion, a atmospheric river. Whatever that is, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm told it involves a lot of rain getting dumped on Montlake. We've got the Oregon State Beavs. Guys, this is the first time in the history of the college football playoff the Beavs are ranked. Like, how awesome is that for Oregon State? Jonathan Smith is the man. He's got the Beavs ranked. What's going to happen when they go and face the Dogs?
Hey, wait a second. We didn't create an order here. Why don't we change it up here? Tony, why don't you go first? You always go last, Tony. You go first.
You want me to go first? Well, I go last because then I got to change it to the next one.
Okay. What do you think, guys? What should the order be? Should we change it up?
Why don't you lead us off and then I'll follow you.
You lead us off.
Oh, I'm going first?
You go first.
Since I'm in last place. Sure, why not? Okay. This is killer, man. I love this game. You got 2 6-2 teams, both teams that are trying to improve their bowl status, outside shots at maybe competing for, I don't even know if they can compete for the Pac-12 number 2 spot, because they both have 2 losses in the Pac-12, so a realistic and outside shot. But heck, 6-2, you got Oregon State, like you said, Tony. They finally got respect. I don't know, if they were in the SEC, they would probably be number 9 in the college football playoff rankings. I don't know.
Maybe number 8.
Yeah, exactly. But this is a big spot for Oregon State because playing at Washington on a Friday night is just going to be a tall ask. And obviously, Washington would love to go 7-2 and be in the top 25 next week. That's how it works, and that's difficult for Oregon State because I just saw that the backup quarterback is going to be starting, and actually he's played better than Chance Nolan. And Oregon State's got some great defense, as we know. But I think it's going to be a little bit too much of a tall task at Husky Stadium on a Friday night. I'm going to have to take Washington in this game.
Yeah, so the point about how high they would be ranked if they're in the SEC is kind of funny because their only 2 losses for Oregon State are, to like the AP 12 and the AP number 9 team in the country or something like that. From like a tiebreaker perspective, if we're like getting into the nitty gritty of what happens for the Pac-12 championship and whatnot, as a UCLA fan, I think I'm actually supposed to root for Washington here, and I think USC fans are supposed to root for Oregon State because you've played them and we play Washington, and one of the tiebreakers ends up being like conference opponents record and whatnot. I think that Penix versus the Oregon State secondary is like a very intriguing matchup because Washington's a team that likes to sling it around. If they have their choice of what they're doing, they're wanting to attack. And we've seen on a couple occasions what the Oregon secondary is capable of doing, though they've been better at home than they have on the road. I don't think either team's looking ahead, but if one team is, it's Washington, who has Oregon next. But again, I don't think that's an issue. It is in Seattle, and I am supposed to root for Washington as a UCLA fan, but there is no way in heck that I'm not taking the Beavs to keep the dream of a 10-win season alive. So the Beavs are going to squeak it out as the underdogs going up to face the Dogs in Seattle.
Whoa!
Well, wow. Well, yeah. No, in this game, there's 2 teams in this league that play just absolutely lights out at home, and that's Utah, and that's Oregon State. And for some reason, I just don't get the same vibe about these teams on the road. So here's the thing. They were able to beat the Huskies last year for the first time in like almost 10 years last year. But this Husky offense is just purring. They're the best offense in the Pac-12. I really do like the Oregon State defense. Those corners, we've talked about the fact of how much trouble they gave USC in our passing attack. But man, the Huskies with Penix has just been incredible. Like almost 380 yards a game, over 500 yards total offense a game. So I just think away from home, this game's at home. I'm gonna lean towards the Beavers, but because this is in Seattle and historically, it gets pretty loud there at Husky Stadium. I'm going to go with the Huskies on this one. You on mute, Tony?
Sorry, you guys know I'm on Team Beav. I think they're awesome. I am all in on Jonathan Smith, but Husky Stadium, that place is wild. It's at night. Maybe I just drank too much of the Kool-Aid while dating a Husky for a while, but bow down to Washington. Mighty are the men who wear the purple and the gold. Something, something, something about the victor's fold. I don't remember the rest of the song, but it's going to be a tough place to play, and I want that dog. So I gotta go with the Huskies. Beavs, I'm sorry. I'm on your team for the rest of the season after this game, but bow down to Washington. All right, next, guys, we have a scandal in the conference right now. A massive scandal. I don't know. Actually, no, we're getting that to the next. Sorry, I'm out of order. First is actually our non-conference game. Guys, we're just going to hit this one real quick because we don't want to spend too long on it. But Notre Dame, kind of honorary part-time Pac conference, has got Clemson coming to town. I don't want to spend too much time on this because number 4 versus a team that lost to Stanford and Marshall. But, guys, does Notre Dame have a chance against Clemson? Friend of the show, Will ND, is going to be there in South Bend for the first time in years. Is he going to see a win?
I'll be brief. Okay? Take a close-up. My shirt. I got my Vegas shirt on, baby. You got to dress to impress because that's where the Pac-12 championship is. Vegas, baby. Vegas. So what does that have to do with Clemson and Notre Dame? If you look at my 3 colleagues here, we voted last week. We picked our teams, and I predicted the upset up at the Q's. The only one. Now, I finished in last place last week, but I picked Notre Dame right. So I'm letting it ride. All my chips on the doors to beat Clemson, and they're going to shake down the thunder and wake up the echoes, and touchdown Jesus is going to be crying and smiling at the same time. Will indeed rub those rosary beads, light that candle when you get to campus because your Irish are going to win.
Oh, LBC with the upset prediction. I like it. The super dog call. Chris, what do you think?
So speaking of Vegas, I would have put any amount of money you wanted to bet on the fact that Rick would have pointed out that he was the only person to take Notre Dame. It is only a 3.5 point spread. So like Notre Dame certainly has a chance. And I think if you like go surface level on it, especially you take the recent results against Syracuse, right? Clemson only winning 27-21, and Notre Dame winning 41-24, and and Notre Dame's at home now, but the transitive property is kind of a scary thing they'll rely on. I think that Notre Dame took advantage of a really particular matchup where the Syracuse D line was too small and just couldn't stand up to Notre Dame's O line. The Clemson's coming off a bye here, and I was wrong picking against Notre Dame last week, and maybe I'll be wrong again, but I think I think Clemson pulls it out 27-20.
Yeah, they're home dogs for a reason. I really like. I just think that both defenses is cool because you're gonna see 2 really good defenses. I believe. I just think that the guys on Clemson side are a bit better. I think that although DJ has been up and down this year, he is leaps and bounds better as far as passing game concerned, as far as offense goes, than anything you're going to see from Notre Dame. You want me to keep it short and sweet. Clemson wins this game, and I think they win it fairly handily.
I almost went to Notre Dame, so I grew up singing, cheer, cheer for old Notre Dame. But Clemson, I think it just stomp them. I'm sorry. Sorry to Will ND. I wish you were going to a different game. Hope that you will come back and tell us some great stories of a surprising win. We'll see. But speaking of Notre Dame and their failure to win at home, guys, I guess it's not still yet. Oh, sorry, I thought it was next. All right, sorry. Next is Oregon, Colorado. Sorry, guys. We were switching the order of these just a few minutes ago, so my order is a little screwed up in my head. Oregon, Colorado. The Ducks have just been rolling, and they're headed in to play one of the worst teams in college football. Guys, what's going to happen? Is there any? I mean, does Colorado even keep this close?
This is just going to be a beatdown. And Colorado had juice for 1 week when they fired Carl Durrell, and they upset Cal. I don't know if you really call that an upset, but Oregon has found itself. Bo Nix is Heisman caliber. He's doing an amazing job. So is the offense. That offensive line is number one in the Pac-12, and they're one of the top offensive lines in the country. And they are going to steamroll Colorado, and they're going to have a balanced attack. They're going to soften them up with a run, and they're going to throw the deep ball. Tony Franklin is going to be on display. And I see Oregon just winning big. This game is going to be over by halftime. Ducks.
The game's over already. It's no amount of looking ahead to rival Washington here matters to the outcome. The Ducks have their rival next week. It doesn't matter. Oregon names whatever score it wants. If you want to talk about the spread, it's 31.5, which is a ton of points. But I have no way of knowing how that goes because I have no idea of knowing how Oregon's third string matches up against Colorado. So if you want to play that game, good luck. But Ducks win next.
Yeah, short and sweet. Ducks blow them out. You guys said it all. The Stars will be out. This is basically a bye. They're gonna play. The Stars will play about maybe a half the game. Bo Nix will get a bunch of Heisman numbers, and then they'll just rest them and get ready for the rest of the season. Ducks roll.
Yeah, I concur with you guys. I think it's going to get real ugly. It's going to get real ugly real fast and feel kind of bad for Colorado. But just a quick shout out to Colorado, who, despite being one of the worst teams in football, is still filling Folsom Field. So kudos to Colorado fans who have been coming out and, would love to see you guys play well. It would be an amazing, miraculous upset. But unfortunately, I think this game ended the day that they printed the schedule. All right, so now we've got our big scandal in the conference. I don't know if you guys have heard what's going on, but Free the Tree, good friend of the show, we've been texting with him, the Stanford Tree, has been suspended for the remainder of the semester. He'll be back in January. There's a temporary tree we'll be filling in for him. We thought we'd tell you guys what went on at Stanford. So Stanford has been having this nasty, nasty crackdown on anything enjoyable that students are trying to do, preventing any kind of registering of parties, just really trying to kill the social scene. So there was a kid who ran around and it got written up in papers with a handmade shirt that said Stanford hates fun. So during the football game, I don't know if you guys heard, the Stanford Tree, in partnership with Sparky the Sun Devil, unveiled during halftime a banner that said Stanford hates fun. And Stanford showed that they do indeed hate fun by suspending the tree for the rest of the semester for doing such. So you guys can see there's the funny thing is, we talk about the Streisand effect. This is how many people were in the stadium at Stanford to actually see it. Fewer people that have actually tweeted about it. Yes, absolutely no one saw this. But then Stanford, in one of the dumbest things I've ever seen Stanford do, made a big deal. And so friend of the show, Stanford Tree, we are with you. We side with you. Absolutely free the tree. Real quick, guys, is there any excuse for this, or do we free the tree?
This is ridiculous. You're supposed to go to college to expand your way of thinking, be open-minded, and to take away the tree's freedom of speech. That was not vulgar. It's less. My God. The band has done more vulgar things to the nth degree compared to that. That is a bad look on Stanford. And I awarded them Pliny the Elder Imperial IPA for their victory over ASU. Back-to-back victories, in fact, over Notre Dame and ASU. That beer is too good for you, Stanford. You get Bud Light. That is ridiculous. And drink it. That's how I feel.
Yeah, they
Chris,
may be overreaching. They may be overreaching, but again, as we all know, you know, being a part of an organization is a privilege. They let you know that if you step out of line, you're gonna pardon the funny here, but you got to get the axe, and that's exactly what happened.
No, yeah, and I think the point you make, Tony, about the Streisand effect is a real good one here, because I don't think anyone knew anything about the bureaucratic red tape stuff that was going on with respect to parties and them cracking down on student activities there, which have like real world negative effects that we don't need to necessarily get into. So yeah, no, I think it's more trouble than it's worth to suspend him, and it seems quite silly among the other things that go on in the world.
You're right, LBC. Their beer is demoted from Pliny the Elder to Bud Light. You know what? I think we just need to knock it down further. Natty Light. That's what you get, Stanford. Natty Light. All right. So moving on. Stanford, no tree in the picture, guys. We do not recognize the counterfeit old tree returning. So we're just leaving Jordan in there by himself. Stanford and Washington State. Poor Wazzu. They played a great game against Utah. Now they're going into terrible Stanford. What do you guys think? Will Stanford pull the treeless upset, or will Washington State and the Cougs roll?
Washington State's a great team with Jake Dickert and Cam, the QB. And just because of what you said about Stanford, go in there and roll on Washington State. That's my analysis.
So one real quick additional point on the tree is, you might have noticed that, Rick normally has his beer picks, but we can't give them out this week. So we won't have those slides because we've each poured one out for the tree. Moving on though to the actual game is, Wazzu is interesting because I don't know who the other 4 lost teams are in the country, but they might be one of the best ones, since their losses are to Oregon, SC, Oregon State, and Utah, who are all ranked. And coming up, they have 4 winnable games against Stanford, Arizona State, and Washington. They could finish 8-4. They could finish anywhere in between. I think they're all winnable, and I think they're all losable. UCLA last week beat Stanford 38-13. Stanford hasn't scored. Stanford scored 2 touchdowns in the last 12 quarters, and the one against UCLA came against legitimately our third string defense and a bunch of walk-ons. Charbonnet ran all over them. Unless Ward takes unnecessary risks and turns it over at a absurd rate, which he's capable of doing, and taking a lot of sacks, I just don't see how Washington State doesn't score enough to win against this Stanford offense. Tony, maybe you can help me out. What's the opposite of a immovable object meets unstoppable force? Because Stanford's offense, they're so bad, and their defense is so bad.
Yet they beat Notre Dame.
I just don't know. And I don't know how I can pick this Stanford team. So I'll take Wazzu to win, and have them be one step to being bowl eligible.
Yeah, there's a couple teams. I have to have a real reason to vote for someone to lose to Stanford or to lose to Colorado. And sorry, Will, but I mean, this Stanford team ranks at the bottom in almost every category you can imagine in football in the Pac-12. And like you just said, the Washington State team has shown at times. I mean, they had Oregon on the ropes in that game. Now that was at home. They're traveling on the road here, but this team in Palo Alto is absolutely nothing like Oregon. And for them to play down to the wire and fall apart at the end, that and Cougat is one thing. But I just don't see anything that Stanford's going to be able to do to stop the offense. And I still think this is one of the faster and more athletic, unknown defenses in the Pac-12. So the way Stanford has been playing on offense, I can't see them getting many yards or many points. I'm going to take Washington State.
Tim, I'm agreeing with you. I agree with all you guys. Most importantly, Stanford and your president and your band and everybody else who suspended the tree, screw you guys. You're showing you hate fun. And because you hate fun, I'm not giving you my pick. I actually think Washington State rolls just because I think they're a lot better team than Stanford, but I hope they score a couple extra and just run it up on them. Friend of the show, Dr. Chilton, we love you. We think you are probably too good a leader to run it up out of spite. But you know what? If you can find Dr. Chilton just a little bit of devil in you, a little bit of dark soul, Dr. Chilton, friend of the show, tell Coach Dicker to score an extra one for the tree. All right, moving on. If you guys, by the way, real quick, two little things. If you guys haven't seen it, we have a fun interview here with Mark Rogers' channel with the tree himself. So you can find it either on the USC channel, or on Mark's general channel. But go check it out. Like, dude is super cool. CEO of a video game company. In fact, when he was texting me, he's like, well, I actually could use a little more time to do my video game company. So he'll be all right with that. But check it out. Get to know the tree. And then also get to know Dr. Chilton. Just amazing lady who leads Washington State. And she took some time and chatted with us here on the Voice of College Football channel and just really gave us some fascinating insights as to what it's like to run an athletic department, what it's like to, sort of to fire a coach and then hire a new one. And certainly she did a bang-up job with that. And kudos to everybody at Washington State and the athletic department of Washington State. We love you guys. Hope you roll. All right, moving on. An interesting game, guys. Apparently, it poured snow down on Rice-Eccles Stadium, and Arizona's coming in from the desert. Any chance that Arizona pulls a miraculous upset, or are we going to see Utah keep rolling?
This is going to be another clinic. Arizona is not a very good road team. They play really well at home, or better than average, I should say, at home. And Utah is laser focused. Coach Witt is going to have them jacked. I think they had a little controversy this past week with Fox Sports getting all over Utah for not providing them the current status of Cam Rising in the football game. Turns out, I guess Fox wasn't even at the game. They were broadcasting from a satellite location, I think in Los Angeles or somewhere not at Utah. So Coach Witt came strong. And, that's a way of rallying the troops. Not that you need to rally the troops here, but Utah is going to make a statement. And they're going to need to make a statement this week, along with Oregon at Colorado and USC against Cal, because of what happened in the college football playoff political agenda with Boo. I think that's his name, Boo. He's the college football playoff committee chair. His last name's escaping me right now, but Boo is his first name. Can somebody help me out?
Just call him Boo Radley.
Can somebody help me out?
Boo Corrigan.
Boo Corrigan. There you go. I was thinking Richardson. Thank you, Tim. Yeah. How ironic to have the first college football playoff released the day after Halloween, and your name is Boo. Okay, so we'll get into this a little bit, but LSU is an SEC bumper team that got elevated to the number 10 college football playoff rankings. And why does this have anything to do with the Pac-12? Let me tell you why. Because LSU is hosting Alabama, and LSU is a prop team by the SEC. They are the mark, they're elevated. And then you got Georgia and Tennessee. So they're going to be ball washing all weekend, all the talking heads. And meanwhile, in the Pac-12, you got Arizona going to Utah, you got Cal going to USC, you got Oregon going to Colorado, and you got UCLA. Where's UCLA this week?
At Arizona State.
At Arizona State. So not a lot of flash. This is the perfect setup for the SEC to elevate. So these teams are going to have to blow away these weaker teams such as Arizona. So look for Utah to put a 50 burger on Arizona.
I don't think this game is necessarily as obvious as some people think. I don't know. The Arizona team kind of impressed me last week a little bit, especially on offense. And Utah's had a proclivity to have people throw the ball on them. That wide receiver group was like amazing against SC. Singer, number 5, that guy can start for a lot of teams, start for a lot of really good teams. I remember one time during that game, someone texted me, "Oh, did you see that one-handed catch?" And I had to reply, "Which one?" That wide receiver group was really amazing in that loss. Utah is an interesting situation with Cam Rising being out last week. I think it's still a question, at least when I checked earlier this week about whether he's starting or not. Kincaid, I think, might not be ready to go. They took care of business against Wazzu with Cam Rising out, and I think they were on like their 4th string running back, and they still took care of business up at Washington State. They're also missing RJ Hubbard, who was ejected in the 3rd against Washington State for targeting, so he'll miss the first half. Utah's got some personnel issues. I still think that they're a better team, and I struggle, but I think in a game that might end up being a bigger shootout and closer than people think, that Arizona might be able to score some more points than people think. If Delora is good Delora and not bad Delora. But that being said, like, I can't pick anyone against this Arizona defense. So I take Utah, but maybe in a game that Arizona hangs around in for a while and scares some people before Utah ends up pulling away.
Yeah. It won't be a blowout because of that offense. I think you guys both said it. This next to probably Stanford and Colorado and Arizona's defenses are tragic. But Jed Fish is just like special with this offense, and how he was able to get this coup by transfer and by recruiting T-Mac from Southern California, a guy that USC coveted and wanted really badly. Cowing and Singer, again, who was a walk-on. That trio, I mean, I thought USC had amazing receivers. It was hard to tell which receiving core actually outplayed the others. Granted, USC had its top 2 receivers out, but those guys balled out completely. It had my respect. So I think that their offense keeps them in it. It's I'm somewhere in between Rick and Chris when it comes to what the final score is going to be. I think they do win pretty handily. I don't think actually it's close even in the beginning. I think that playing Utah at home, right? We're forgetting that Rice Eccles effect. It's going to get on that. These guys are good, but playing at Rice Eccles can take even the best, most well-oiled offenses and take them out of their comfort zone. So I think that Arizona is going to put up some points, but Utah is going to own this game from the beginning.
Tim, I think you just nailed it. I agree with you completely. I think Utah is going to win. I think they're going to win pretty handily. It won't be embarrassing for Arizona, but I think Utah is going to win pretty solidly, especially given the weather. Hey, guys, friend of the show, Gixxer Squid. Gixxer, thank you very much for your contribution. That makes a huge help to the show. We really appreciate it. Truly do. Has a really good question. He wants to know, has anyone's top 3 Pac-12 quarterbacks ranking changed since last month? Well, Gixxer, I'll tell you for mine, I still put number 1, Caleb, number 2, Bo, number 3, DTR. I've actually thought about that. Thought it's pretty steadily, I think, since we really saw Bo stick it to BYU. I think that showed me that he was the quarterback that we all thought he could be. But Caleb Williams has just done miraculous things, which is why I put him as my number 1. Thought a little bit about Cam Rising for the number 3, but I think I still hold with DTR is doing some great stuff. What do you guys think?
I think it's kind of hard to ignore what Penix is doing. He's kind of your wild card in this. I mean,
Yes.
he's leading the league in passing yards, but then you have a guy like Caleb leading the league in touchdowns. What I've seen, you just want to look at just. You asking me who's having the better season? Statistically, statistics? That's different. Are you asking me who is the best who's my power ranking? Who's my best quarterback? Who do I want to be my quarterback when it's you're down by 6 and there's about a minute 45 and you're on your own 20-yard line? That's gonna be Caleb Williams. I'm taking him number 1. Number 2 is going to be, and we're forgetting about Cam Rising. I know he's dinged up, but it's hard to leave him out as well. I'm sorry, Chris, but I think DTR's kind of popped down even early in that game when they were playing. He not last week, but when they were playing earlier, he was starting to make some of those bad throws. So he had
like a B game, but yeah,
you know what I mean. Well, I mean, as opposed to him being like way at the top, right? Because I mean, he was playing out of his mind, and then he started just kind of that. He just gave me some doubt crept in. I was totally against. I was even mocking your New York comment, but believe me, I was starting to get on board big time. I'm not saying DTR has even been knocked down that much. It's just there's so many great. I mean it. This is why we've been so the Pac-12 has been down so badly because all our best quarterbacks have been going out. Right. Next to coaching, the quarterback play in the Pac-12 has improved almost overnight immensely. Right, with DTR turning up a notch, just getting better 2 years in a row. Rising being that steady guy in the middle. If I'm going to be nailed down, I'm going to go Caleb Williams 1. Then I think it's hard. I'm sorry. It does get hard for me. I'm putting Penix 2 just because of his raw numbers. I just have to do it. And then for 3 to toss up. I know it's too close. 1 and 2 reasons where I'm sorry, I'm going to chicken out on 3.
Yeah, so I have kind of a different opinion. I think Bo Nix has been the best quarterback, and he happens to be on the best team. But if we're saying like who is the quarterback you want for your own team, I think I actually stick with DTR over anyone else, and that's because for like in Oregon's case, right, that's an amazing offensive line that's given up like 1 sack the entire year. And when every other part of your offense is going perfectly, it makes it a lot easier to play quarterback, right? Put other guys behind that O-line, and maybe there's other people that can do, we don't know until it happens, but there's other people that can play well behind that O-line. But that being said, I still think you have to give him the credit for getting it done. And I would put Bo Nix number 1 overall. But as for like which quarterback I want playing and starting for my team, I have to go with DTR merely because, with our offensive line has been great, but we need some of his playmaking ability in a way that we can't get away with, someone that wants to sit in the pocket like a Penix. So that's why he would be number 2 on my list. After that, I think it's Caleb. But like, there's a ton of great quarterbacks in this league. Like Cam Rising is a great quarterback. Penix has been great. He can't move as well as some of these other guys that we've mentioned in the top 4, which is why I put him a tier below. And even like a guy like Delora, when he's on, is amazing. He has to force it a little bit more. So I don't know how much it's fair to judge him. But there's a ton of great quarterback play among those people.
Well, if I could jump back in really quick, because you made a good point that made me think. It's like the reason why I think maybe I have a bias towards Bo Nix is that offensive line, because if you stick the guy, so we've seen Penix, right, with a clean pocket. That guy, arm talent wise, and what he's done and how he's been able to throw the ball, give him that clean pocket that Bo Nix is enjoying, and what would his numbers actually be? So that's why I have him there, and maybe I'm just being unfair to Bo Nix. But same thing can be said about Caleb. Same things they be about DTR with that offensive line. I've been pumping Bo Nix, but again, how much is Bo Nix? How much is it just the little dump off pass and having a clean pocket? So that's why I'm being a little bit biased towards him.
Really quick, and I'll only take 30 seconds here. Is the thing Bo Nix does really well is he gets the ball out super fast. And his ability to move with his feet adds a dimension to that offense that the team would not be the same with a guy like Penix. But I give you the points on Penix's arm talent and whatnot. I just don't think he's the same level as a college quarterback.
As Bo Nix?
Correct.
All right. Thank you, guys, and thank you, Gixxer Squid. All right. Hey, guys, for real quick, you guys heard Rick talking about the college football committee rankings. Well, for everybody who's part of the Voice of College Football Community's Patreon page, we do a poll every week where we ask the Mark Rogers Voice of College Football Community to chip in what they thought about the rankings. And this is real quick, the rankings of your Voice of College Football Community from you guys versus what the College Football Playoff Committee thought. And you guys were very, very similar. But as Rick said, notice number 10 there, you guys picked Utah. You and Mark Rogers Community picked Utah, and then the playoff committee elevated LSU. So that was what Rick was talking about, and I thought it was pretty stunning, pretty egregious case of this SEC nonsense, the typical SEC autofellatio we hear about a lot, and I think we all could have done without it.
Yeah, let me break this down real quick, because last night on Mark Rogers, the Voice of College Football call-in show. Great show, by the way, Mark. Thank you for entertaining everybody for the live call-in for the first college football playoff ranking deal. And bless you, Tim. And then he had you, Tony, Tim, and myself to unveil this week's Patreon 12-team bracket college football rankings. And honestly, when LSU came up, when you did this graphic, Tony, that was telling, because it stunned me. I didn't expect to see LSU. You know why I didn't expect to see LSU?
Because they're not that good?
Part of that.
Okay.
And because this week in the AP polls, they were 15 in the AP poll and 17 in the coaches poll. That's a huge gap. And let me just give you some facts and data, because sometimes the SEC doesn't want to hear facts and data unless it's about dollar bills. So let me give you some facts and data about LSU down in the Bayou, okay?
They don't do math down there in the Bayou.
Well, I'm going to teach them right now, okay? If you remember, LSU was not ranked in the preseason. And in total, they've played 5 home games, 2 away, and 1 neutral. But we know that opening game against Florida State was in New Orleans. To me, that's a home game. Don't let the SEC people tell you about geography, because they don't know geography either. That is a home game. So they played 6 home games and 2 away games. Keep that in mind, college football fans. I'm going to give you a little lesson. They lost a 1-point game to Florida State,
who's not very good.
Still not ranked. They beat Southern. Tough.
Who's not very good.
Southern, yeah. They beat.
Didn't Southern just get smashed by Jackson State?
There you go. Exactly.
Okay.
That's the same Southern. Yes.
Yeah. 35-0 or something. Okay.
Yeah. They beat an unranked Mississippi State team. They beat an unranked New Mexico. All 3 of those games were down in the Bayou at LSU.
Terrible teams.
They went and they won at Auburn, 21-17. That was their first road game, and they had a win. But it should be noted, 2 weeks earlier, Auburn lost at home, 41-12 to Penn State. Okay, they won by 4 against a horrible Auburn team that just fired their coach finally.
Such a bad Auburn team, like atrociously bad.
Well, guess what? For beating Auburn and being those other 3 tomato cans, well, I'm sorry, Mississippi State, you're not a tomato can, but when you're squeezed in between Southern and New Mexico, you know how you can kind of get identified or profiled. But so they are 4-1, and they get boosted to number 25. Congratulations, LSU. And then what do? You get boat raced by Tennessee in the Bayou. We all remember seeing that 40-13. Even though Mark Rogers want to say it wasn't that much of a blowout. They were hanging with them in the first half. I am sorry. It's 40-13. Do the math. Okay, still the same thing. That's a 27-point loss. So then they dropped out of the top 25. And then they go ahead and they go on the road and they beat a non-ranked Florida team. I think Mark Rogers just had them as the number 11 ranked SEC team in his power rankings. They beat them 45-35. Okay, then they go to Ole Miss and they beat a number 7 Ole Miss team 45-20. They beat Ole Miss by 25 points. So they go to 6-2. And then this week they get ranked 15th in the AP, 17th in the coaches, and lo and behold, nobody expected this. We were dumbfounded last night. In the college football rankings, they are number 10. You beat Ole Miss by 25, and then you jump to number 10. That is what is called the SEC shell game, folks. This is the SEC shell game. Okay? This is a bumper for Alabama, because if Alabama goes down and plays a tough road game in the Bayou, where Tennessee just boat raced them 2 weeks ago, Alabama's not going to fall that far. But if LSU beats Alabama in the Bayou, guess what? They're going to pass USC. They're going to pass Oregon. They may even pass TCU. This is what is called gerrymandering. They are fixing the system. Don't let it happen. Greg Sankey is shaking down the thunder. And trust me, he is doing some backyard dealing with Boo Corrigan. Now, Boo Corrigan, the day after Halloween, did a trick or treat. Okay? Depending on what part of the country you belong to. Chris, you may know this. He's the NC State AD. Kind of peculiar that a 7-1 UCLA having a great season is 2 spots behind LSU, as I just laid out LSU's resume. Could it be that Boo's a little ticked off that UCLA canceled the Holiday Bowl hours before kickoff as people were tailgating and drinking great beer? Hopefully not Bud Light. So don't think Boo doesn't forget that. And he probably did a good old deal with Sankey or one of Sankey's cronies that's on the college football committee. Why don't you do me a little favor and put LSU up there in the 10 spot? Screw those Bruins from UCLA. They don't even play football anyhow. You know what? They didn't show up to a Holiday Bowl. Screw them.
I mean, he's got a point.
You might think that's crazy, but this is how this committee works. There's biases from years ago. So how else do you explain LSU at number 10? I'm done.
I like it. I like it. LBC coming in hot. And we got a super chat. Zach T. Michigan should be in the top 4. Clemson is good, but not playoff good, in my opinion. Get some better play at quarterback, and Michigan could be a major contender. Yeah, Zach, I think Michigan is a major contender. And Zach, I think you're right. Michigan's great. I think they should be in the top 4. One of the we put them in the top 4. You know, we're going to see, though. Michigan's going to play Ohio State. One of those teams is probably going to win out and get a playoff spot. So, hail to Michigan, the champions of the West. We'll see.
Rick, you know where Boo Corrigan went to school, right?
No, why don't you tell me?
Notre Dame.
Oh, there's the mess right there. There's the mess right there.
I don't think he's a Southern guy. He is. Again, I did not think about that NC State. That's a brilliant connection you have right there. But the plot will thicken, I'm sure, if SC is ever in contention. Obviously not this year, but the future. Good old Boo's up there.
All right, we'll see. All right, let's get off of this because I'm starting to taste some gumbo throw up in my mouth.
I want to thank
All
Tim.
right.
Go ahead. Here, Tony. I want to thank Tim for that compliment. It seems that Sid Siegel has a differing opinion. He's like LBC coming up with his JFK conspiracy and the fake moon landing theories. Hey, Sid, if you can't take facts and I just laid out the resume and you can't take it, hey, I'm sorry, man, but I've been watching this movie for 20 years. And, you know, to jump from 25 up to basically 15 in the AP and 17 in the coaches, and then to go all the way to number 10 in this college football rankings, it's fishy. It's not a conspiracy.
It's magic.
I mean, exactly. Hey, man, I can't tell you. Can't change your mind.
I like it. All right, let's get on to some. It said he knows. He's just giving you a hard time. All right, guys, another interesting game. Now, I understand there are some people who think this one is going to be an upset. UCLA Bruins, ranked number 12, headed into the desert to play Arizona State. Now, Arizona State, who fired their coach earlier in the season, they were a giant dumpster fire. Sean Aguano came in. He took over play calling, actually, and has been quite successful. Guys, is there any chance that UCLA pulls a miracle upset in the desert?
I'm conflicted, Tony. I'm very conflicted because I got onto that DTR bandwagon, if you recall, when UCLA went up to go play at Autzen. What was I thinking? You know this, Tony. UCLA,
Go
they set
Rays.
you up and they let you down, right? And there's a lot of crazy things that have happened down in the desert. Just look at USC, right? And crazy things happen in the desert all the time. I believe they happen to Washington at ASU. So UCLA and their fans, they're a little nervous because they know what happens down in the desert. And ASU is not a comparable team. But this is a bowl game and a statement for ASU. A lot of it has to do with recruiting. There's a lot of guys on that team that didn't get recruited by UCLA and USC that would have loved to have gone there. And you've got this new coach that's believing in this team, and the team is believing in this coach. I'm right on the borderline of what to choose because I know UCLA is the better team. And DTR, like Chris said, is going to be going to New York. That trip might be on hold for a second. But I'm going to take the Bruins.
I like it, LBC. I like it.
This is going to be a 3 or 4 point victory, but I'm going to take the Bruins.
There's some questions about how to pronounce his name, but the quarterback for Arizona State, they've switched quarterbacks to Bourget or Bourget. I don't know if it's French or not.
It's French.
The walk-on from Tucson, and he's done some good things for them lately against Washington and Colorado. And their running back Valladay is very capable of making some plays. They played Washington well at home, but they lost to the Stanford team that we all think is really bad, that didn't even score a touchdown against them and somehow managed to win 15-14. I think in different years, I'd be a little bit more concerned and more in line with other UCLA people that think this might be a scary kind of game. But after the way that the UCLA team, the level of focus and how we came out and dominated Stanford from the very start of that game, and I understand Stanford's not a very good team, but this team handles business. And I don't think that they're the kind of team that sleepwalks into this game and lets Arizona State hang around more than they should. I think it's something like 45-30, something like that, where Arizona State's capable of scoring some points, but UCLA wins and probably covers.
Yeah, this is a kind of game, like even I said it when SC was going to play when they had ASU, but this one's down in the desert for you guys. And it's only a 10-point spread, which I was surprised about. ASU's defense is not very stout against the run or the pass, but especially the run. They're giving over 150 yards a game on the ground. That does not bode well. Watching Charbonnet run the damn ball is truly giving me nightmares already. Just the way a guy that big and that powerful can show that burst, can leap over guys, and be that athletic. I also saw how Caleb was able to escape and evade and run all over the place against ASU and just pick up those yards when he needed them. That's going to be what's going to be happening. They'll be moving the chains a lot. I don't see his game. I see his game being a squeaker, but I think that UCLA is going to cover, and they're really going to just run the ball and pound. I think we're all still forgetting just what it is like going on there in Tempe. Just like we talked about with Colorado, they had that bounce for a little while, and every team gets that. But we're still talking about a team that's in turmoil. And I think this UCLA team with an offensive line that's, I think, overachieving, and with Charbonnet running the ball like he is, they win, they cover.
Just real quick. Hey, everybody, one thing that you could really do that makes a huge difference for the Voice of College Football community, everybody watching us, there's, a couple hundred people between all the different channels right now that are watching this live. If you could just hit like and subscribe, whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching it somewhere else, it really makes a huge difference for the YouTube algorithm. And we really appreciate it. Mark Rogers and the whole Voice of College Football community really appreciates it. So if you can just take a minute, give it a quick, just click the like button. If you're not subscribed, just do that. Truly makes a difference. We appreciate it. You guys, I think you're right. I think it'd be wild if we could see a crazy upset here. You know, Arizona State, they probably have the talent to do it, but UCLA is just a better team. And no matter what we think about the potential for upset, we say every game in the Pac-12 is a trap game. John Wilner, I think, thinks that Arizona State's going to pull off the upset here, but yeah, he also thinks that UCLA might not go to the Big Ten. So as much as I love John, I'm going with the rest of you guys, and I think UCLA rolls it on them pretty good in the desert. All right, next up to bat. Game of the night for some of us here, the late game, Pac-12 After Dark, live from the Coliseum. Guys, USC versus Cal. Now, these used to be some wild matchups. Aaron Rodgers, goal line stands. Is Justin Wilcox going to summon the echoes of the old days, or is this going to be a Trojans run past the Bears?
You're on mute, Tony.
No, you mean Tip? Rick?
Oh, sorry, Rick. I'm sorry, Rick.
Sorry.
I was just saying Tony. My bad, Tony. This time it's Rick.
It's usually me. I'm usually the one who's guilty.
Sorry, the Trojans have a little payback for the Bears. They lost last year, and that was actually Lincoln Riley's first game watching the Trojans because he was hired. You remember they had a game up at Cal shortly after he was hired, so they got to play up there, and they beat USC. And I was in the Coliseum in 2018 when they beat us there too. Made my Cal friend that I brought and his wife very happy. That was not a fun night, nor was last year. And USC is going to roll Cal. Cal has had offensive line troubles all year. Their offense just cannot get going. They've got a lot of great skill players, wide receiver, Sturdivant. They've got Maven Anderson. They've got the transfer from Purdue in Plummer at quarterback. But Plummer doesn't have enough time. He's not a mobile guy. And so he's getting sacked or he's throwing interceptions. And they can't feature Jaden Ott because they can't block for the guy. So he's getting limited touches. They got to get him the ball in space, but defenses know how to key on and judge Jaden Ott, and he's a freshman. Their defense is okay. Their defense is pretty good, and you're always going to get that from a Justin Wilcox team. And Peter Sermon's on the staff, and his son is a linebacker, and he's capable. They've got some good defensive backs. But at the end of the day, USC just has way too much, and USC is going to need to make a statement. They're at number 9. They're in the Coliseum. It's a 7:30 game, and they need a breakout game. That's what they need. And so they're going to deliver. SC is going to deliver, and the Trojans are going to pound the Bears.
Yeah. USC fell short of the 1,000 points they were supposed to score against Arizona last week by only scoring 45, but they decided to continue their season. So I'll get out of the way and let Tim talk it up as another one of the USC guys. But I find the 21.5 kind of interesting against a Cal team who sometimes does some things on defense that are positive. The offensive line is a paltry offensive line, and the other thing I'm kind of interested in is just as like from an eye test perspective. I don't think the game is ever in doubt. I don't think there's any chance Cal keeps up, over the course of the game. But I'm interested to see what if anything this Cal offense, who is not very good, does against USC's defense, in the sense that like from just like a pure eye test perspective, in terms of as a UCLA fan looking forward to our game in a couple of weeks, because we're not going to learn anything against Colorado the week after this. And I'm just interested whether I confirm some biases I may or may have that are unspoken, or if we don't really learn a lot and SC rolls. And I think they roll either way. But I'm interested to see whether the final comes in as like a 17-point game or like a 28-point game. That's all.
early this season, Jay, not like Rick said, was just getting off. He was just running the ball, but he lately has disappeared. We know that their passing game is pretty bad to poor. Usually in the past, you've had Wilcox come with these great, crazy defenses, but even the defensive categories for Cal and within the Pac-12, they're towards the bottom quarter of teams, just above Stanford, really, and Arizona and Colorado. So that's not saying much. Where it's really nasty is they're giving up almost 300 yards a game through the air. And that does not bode well when I'm pretty sure we'll have Mario Williams, if not Addison. But I'm guessing Mario Williams for sure. And we showed last game that we don't even need even our top 2 receivers to light it up. I think that USC is going to just absolutely Caleb Williams is going to continue, like I said about 3 weeks ago after the loss. Caleb Williams is going to go on his statistics like dream scenario over this next couple of weeks. And it's not going to stop here with this Cal defense. I say USC is going to jump out early, and hopefully we're going to see some Miller time in the second half because I want to get our stars out. I think it's going to be that kind of a game.
Tim, I think you're right. We need a game. We need a game where we get some backup some time. USC is a great backup quarterback, Miller Moss. He's a great guy and a great quarterback. We need him to be able to get, I think, some serious reps. And we certainly, our defense has been a little sketchy. We've had, we're still in a rebuilding mode. Amazing success despite USC being in a rebuilding mode. But we need a game where we just stomp somebody and give an opportunity for some of the backups to get in, offense and defense. Let everybody continue to heal. For that reason, I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think USC wins solidly. So we'll see what happens. Now, one of the things for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, LBC set up and led an amazing discussion with Jacobo Herrera. And Jacobo is the USC drum major and the Trojan, the guy who stomps the field. So if you haven't seen it on either the USC channel or Mark Rogers' main channel, you can go check it out. It's one of the most popular videos Mark's had in the past few months. Just a really, really fantastic interview with a really, really great guy and really neat kid. So check that out if you guys haven't seen it. So now let's take a look, guys. How are we doing in the standings? How are we doing as pickers and prognosticators? Well, let's find out. In last place, but with the best, but I don't think there's any question, with the best takes on the show, LBC, 20-3, 2013, sorry. In third place, I can't always pick some of the teams I hate, so I think it cost me a little bit in the picking, but I followed third. Tim continues a strong showing at second, and once again in the lead, we've got Chris. Hey, thanks to Ben, by the way. Ben, we really appreciate that. Here's to the great Pac-12 show coming to the Big Ten. Can't wait to have you guys covering my conference. Well, Ben, I grew up in Big Ten country. All my friends went to Michigan. My grandpa's from Ohio State, and my dad played for Duffy. So go green, go Buckeyes, go blue. I can't wait either. What do you guys think?
Tony, you forgot to put fifth place there at 0-2.
Who's 0-2?
DeReal.
DeReal's 0-2. I like it. DeReal, you're 0-2 on our thing. We might add you next time. We might. DeReal, guys, and guys, we tease DeReal MVP, who is an amazing guy and a great contributor to the voice of college football. We love him. We also love to tease him, but we tease him because we love him. It always has really good takes and everything else. So, DeReal, go Cats for you. But hey, Ben, we really do appreciate that. Thanks for helping the show. And who knows, maybe next will be the Big Pac show or something like that. Make it kind of fun. So moving on really quick. Hey guys, let me put the link in the chat because we would love to hear from you. Again, one that we've gone a little long tonight. Sorry about that. But one of the things that we really love is we love having the chance to hear from you guys. So we're going to put the link in the chat here right now. And we'd love to have you guys call in and tell us what you think about the games. And we'll put them up and we want to hear from you guys. So as we wait for some folks to all click in here, it's already some popping up, it sounds like. We want to hear from you guys. let's take a look at our power ranks. So power rankings have changed this week, guys. We had some of our first big changes in the power ranks this week. So once again, across the board, last place is the Colorado Buffaloes. Everyone is unanimous in that. We got Will and D joining us already. Will, give us just 1 sec. Hey, welcome back. Hold on, I'm putting you in the back room for just 1 second. We get this squared away. Next up to bat. Now this is kind of interesting, guys, because we had a little bit of breaking, but take a look at where Cal and Stanford came out. Chris had some belief in the Cal Bears. No one else did. And Rick had a little more belief in Stanford than anybody. So some interesting picks there. The Arizonas were next, and they populated up. Now, Tim broke the plane. Tim had since we've been doing the power rankings, the first Arizona or San Francisco team to rise above 7. Tim, tell us about your love for the Wildcats.
No, I don't have love for them. Their defense is tragic, but their offense is better than I believe better than anyone below them. And given the fact that most of the Pac-12, is it because the offenses are so good or the defenses are so bad? It's somewhere in the middle, but I think it's more towards our defenses are pretty bad in our conference right now. So having an offense like that gives you a shot in almost any game. So it's just a neutral field, power rankings. I gave them a little bit of a bump.
I like it. Now let's take a look at the Pacific Northwest.
Can we hold on for a second, Tony?
Oh yeah, sorry. Go on. Go back. Yeah.
I think we need to get Chris's opinion because Cal at number 8, that seems a little high to me and to the rest of us.
So
Chris, what's the effect?
You
Chris,
guys all have Arizona.
Is this just because you're hoping to sit at the grown-ups table when you go home for Thanksgiving?
That's
part of it. It's because his dad's watching and he has to.
That's part of it. No, but no, the real reason, and I would put them lower if I thought they deserved it. The real reason is you guys all have Arizona. No, you guys all have Arizona really high, right? Like very high.
Well, only a
what happened? What happened when those two teams played each other? I can't take like Arizona. The only question to me about this list is whether Arizona should be lower on everyone's list because they cannot stop anyone.
No, they can't.
What happened?
Like, I don't know how you pick Arizona to win a game, except for the fact that like I think Stanford is another level of incompetence, and Arizona is just barely better if they even are, since they lost to that Stanford team. Like we're splitting hairs between I think 4 teams.
Yeah, we are. We're splitting hairs. The Kansas top touchdowns. And
I do think that Arizona on a random Saturday has the best chance of beating someone not in this bottom 5 by just going off on offense, and has like the biggest upset potential of that group, right? But I can't, like I think last week I had them 11 or 10. Like they showed up against SC, but they literally cannot stop anyone. And you guys should have won that game more dominantly than you did if you would have just shoved it down their throats. But instead, you kind of threw the ball around and got into a shootout. And
thanks for triggering us.
Like threw it back and forth and threw the ball all over the field, which is the exact kind of game that they want. But if you just run the ball on this Arizona team, like they cannot keep up with anyone because they cannot stop people from running the ball on them. Jaden Ott had like 270 yards or whatever the heck it was in a game that made us think that Cal had a competent offense. That's how bad Arizona's defense is. We actually thought Cal solved their offensive line issues, and that offensive line is not very good at all. Arizona's defense is so bad.
I keep hearing this from people. I got it from Rick during the game. I'm hearing from you right now. This team, if they don't miss a 39-yard field goal and get screwed at the end of the half with that really weird clock thing that the refs did, they put 50 points on them and 611 yards. The offense and how they passed or ran, or if they want to, do the chicken dance to the end zone, it didn't matter how they scored to put those yards up. It really doesn't. It's the fact that USC's defense is a lot worse than I thought it was. The last week showed me that we're even worse than I thought we were on defense. It's
so fine. We agree that Arizona's defense is dog water and can't stop.
All right, can I get a poll? I want to get a poll in the chat right now for everybody watching in the chat. Tell us now. Chris's dad, who's a friend of the show, who we love, former Cal quarterback, has Chris earned his place at the grown-ups table for Thanksgiving? Has he properly advocated for Cal so that he gets to sit with the grown-ups at Thanksgiving? I vote yes. Tell us what you think in the chat.
And then one more thing on Arizona. They're also getting better each game. That's really what I've been doing with Arizona. They've steadily, as an offense and as a team, even as bad as their defense is, it is slightly improving. So that's also why they got a bump for me.
All right, to Mr. Chris's dad, the chat so far is unanimous. Chris sits at the big kids table. All right, in the Pacific Northwest, and sorry guys, I'm trying to go through this a little quick because we got folks waiting to chat. I believed in the Huskies. I could be wrong. We'll see what the picks say. The rest of you all went with the Beavs. I went with the Dogs. Any second guessing on that real quick before we move on?
None here, Tony.
All right. Once again, we all have Oregon across the board, number one. Then the LA schools gets a little interesting. Tim, you and I believe in the Trojans. Rick and Chris believe in the Bruins. And we all think Utah's pretty solid. So any quick takes before we bring everybody else on?
I have USC fourth. Things will play out, but these are the current power rankings. Oregon had a statement win against UCLA. Utah beat USC. And so USC is going to get a chance to take on UCLA and perhaps Utah or Oregon in a Pac-12 championship game if they keep winning out. So it's just a matter of time to get the opportunity.
Chris, what do you think real quick?
Oh, I mean, it's the same order of the top, I think, maybe 6 and 7. Like, I think I've had the same top 6 for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I don't unless something drastic happens over the next 2 weeks, I don't think anything changes until November, the weekend of November 19th or whatever it is, when USC plays UCLA and Oregon plays Utah. The interesting thing this week, it's really interesting to me, is that 5-6 that I have, and Oregon State. I think we have the line drawn right of Pacific Northwest, but the question to me is whether Oregon State deserves to have that bold line underneath their 5 instead of on top of the 5, even though they've lost to both those teams. Well, I think they might be closer to the top 4 than they are to 6 and 7. But this weekend's going to tell us a lot about Oregon State and Washington.
All right, how about this? For all of our Beavers in the audience, tell us if this is okay in the chat. You beat the Dogs. Next week, the line is below you. Deal? Tell us in the chat if that's a good deal. Hey, LBC, you just got some thanks from Zach. Zach, friend of the show. Thank you for helping contribute. We really appreciate it. I know Mark appreciates it. And he says, thanks for the love.
You're welcome, Zach. Hey, man, I'm here to tell the truth. And whether that, that hurts you or you love it, that's what you're going to get from me. So I'm glad.
All right. I love it. And LBC only tells the truth. Sorry, Tim, what were you going to say? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all right. I mean, they really haven't. The top hasn't changed much at all. I'll tell you this: unfortunately, the teams in the top 4, we really don't know how they would do on a neutral field, right? Because none of these games have been played that have already been played have been on neutral fields. We know the teams that are at home have held serve up top, but we're going to start seeing Oregon's going to get a taste of these other teams and see how well they do. They'll be at home, and I think they might have some challenges at home.
It's going to be interesting. All right. With that, guys, let's get to some folks here that have called in. We've got 2 folks. Let's just start off real quick with 2 SEC fans here to talk Pac-12. We've got Darrell MVP and Tide Guy. Tide Guy, we're bringing you on first because we know you are in Mexico City. It's the Day of the Dead. You got some parties to attend tonight. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome.
I just wanted to hop on real quick. I don't think you guys can hear the music in the background, but it's really loud here. like Tony said, we're celebrating the Day of the Dead, but I wanted to stop on and say hi to you guys and tell you guys you do a great show.
Oh,
Hey,
thank you, Ty Guy. We appreciate it, and you too. And if anybody's not subscribed to Ty Guy, check out his stuff. He does fun trivia nights. He does really great college football content. You guys should be following him. What Darrell and Ty Guy, what do you guys think about the Pac-12 games coming up this week?
I'm looking forward toward Oregon State, Washington the most this week. I think that'll be around the 30s. It's a 50-50 game in my opinion. I think that'll be a great game.
I agree with
Yeah, I think so too. And it's kind of fun because it's on a Friday night.
Yeah, I know that's probably the most Pac-12 thing that can happen. Is probably the best game of the week in my opinion, being a Friday night game.
It's such a Pac-12 thing. It's with I don't know, Darrell, I don't know if you were on when we were talking about it. Have you heard the phrase of what is going through Seattle this weekend is called an atmospheric river, whatever that is. But it's going to probably have that game be kind of interesting.
Is that going to affect the wind conditions in the game?
They're on the lake and both sides of the stadium are open, so probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it'll be low scoring. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Todd Guy, what are your thoughts about this game?
I think Washington's going to win. I got Washington winning this in a close one.
Well, I'm going to go with Oregon State because there's a bunch of proud Beaver fans in the chat, and they've been hyping up their Beavers, and they've proved me wrong, and they're a really good team. And I think they should be higher ranked than number 23. I think they're around 18, 17. So I think they're a quality team. Washington, I don't know, man. The last time I saw them play was against Arizona State, and I'm not sure how they've played since then, but I just can't get that out of my mouth, that taste out. So
It's true. Hey, Darrell, what a quick question for you. If Oregon State were to put themselves in LSU uniforms for Halloween, what would they be ranked? 4?
Thanks, Tony. You're going to segue perfectly what I was going to say. Okay.
I'm just teasing you.
No, you're fine. LBC.
I knew we were going there, so I figured I'd just bring us there because we were going there anyway.
Exactly. LBC, last week, I believe it was, you had in my opinion, the very intelligent take of accepting 3 SEC teams in the playoffs. I gave you a round of applause. This week, I got to give you a thumbs down, man. Listen, the playoff committee, this isn't a smorgasbord where everybody's trying to help out Alabama. This is just simply what I believe is a bad ranking, okay? It happens. The college football community has Utah at 10, and I completely disagree with that. I don't think Utah should be 10 either. In fact, the team I think should be 10, because I have a feeling that's what you're going to ask, is Kansas State.
It's a solid pick, Darrell. I respect that. That's a solid pick.
Or we could just move UCLA up one.
That much for the TCU loss because they had their third string quarterback playing, and they were up 28-7 or 28-0 when he went into the game.
Hey, wait a minute, guys. You're not going to let Darrell do this, are you? I mean, he's going to say Kansas State is that high because the only team they lost to was an ex-SEC team in Tulane.
Hey, next thing we're going to hear some love for Sewanee.
There you go.
What do you guys think?
Don't give away. No spoilers for the upcoming tournament we got coming up pretty soon.
That's right. Hey, and by the way, for anybody who doesn't watch, next Tuesday, we're going to have a special unveiling too. We have brought in psychics. We brought in Ouija boards. We brought in voodoo dolls. We've gone down in the bayou to find some crazy witchcraft. And we have gone inside the mind of Darrell MVP. We're going to have a special Darrell poll as well next week on the Boise College Football's live playoff reveal. So you guys better be there or be square.
Now, Tony, do I have time to send you, what was that machine again in the movie Big? You put the quarter in, and was that Zoltar or
Zoltar? I think it's the Zoltan machine or the Zoltar machine. We'll have to consult him as well. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Darrell, we're gonna have to have you on for that.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping. I'm expecting greatness. I'm expecting greatness, and you always
glorious. It's gonna be glorious.
Darrell, I don't know if you were on earlier, but I laid out LSU's resume game by game, and you'd mentioned, hey, it's just a bad ranking by the college football committee. what is your take? How did they bump from let's say 15 in the AP this week and 17 in the coaches, yet they're number 10 in the first college football playoff ranking, the one that matters?
The simplest explanation, and the one I'm choosing to go with, is they have Ole Miss at 11, and since LSU beat them head to head and dominated, they put them at 10.
Okay, so prior to playing Ole Miss, they were ranked 25. Okay, and then they got bumped up for beating Ole Miss, who was number 7 at the time. They got bumped up by the AP 10 spots, and they got bumped up by the coaches 8. Yet they got bumped up by the college football playoff committee 15 for one win versus a top 25 team. That's the only team that they've beaten in the top 25. That I find a little bit hard to deal with. So my take on it, after watching 20 years of these shenanigans, backroom dealings, and you've got this committee, led by a guy named Boo Corrigan, which I cannot make up. Come on now.
The better question might be.
Rick, what you have to think about, though, is the team that LSU beat had SEC on their shoulder.
Yes.
Well, right. That was going to be my next point. Is the better question might be why necessarily Ole Miss is 11. I mean, I understand that they beat Kentucky at home by 3 points, Daryl, and that Kentucky team is a good team, but their other wins are Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Tulsa, Vanderbilt, a bad Auburn team at home, and a bad Texas A&M team by 3. There's nothing on that schedule that screams like, oh wow, what a great win. Like,
definitely the real tell us the answer to this, and then let's pass more Pac-12.
They don't have a win versus a ranked team, Ole Miss, by the way.
Well, I think we get into the problem where it'll play itself out kind of, because all their good games, if they beat Bama and go 12-1, then they're going to make the playoffs. So it really doesn't matter. If you want to put them at 13 or 14, that's fine with me. Or if you want to even put them below that. But I just think people look at the records. There's not a whole lot of one-loss teams that are really ahead of or behind them.
It mattered in this case, though, because it bumped LSU to 10 based on Ole Miss. It have to be ahead of Ole Miss. But you look at Ole Miss ain't wearing any clothes. She's naked. She's got nothing of worth on her body. There's no top.
No sundress.
No sundress. Nothing. But that's what I call the SEC shell game. This is what it's about. Get used to it.
Let's leave some of that meat on the bone for Sunday night.
All right, yeah, we'll leave some of that meat on the bone for Sunday night. It'll be fun. Hey guys, real quick.
For Sunday night, when most likely Alabama wins, Georgia beats Tennessee in a close game, and the 3-team SEC scenario still alive.
We'll see. Hey, you guys, thank you so much. Anything else, real quick?
Hey, thanks for having me,
good luck
guys.
to all the Pac-12 teams that are playing this week. Good luck to USC and UCLA, and congrats on the UCLA fan for still being ahead in every single prediction.
He is. He's smoking us. He's smoking our butts.
I'm down by 1. I don't know if that's smoking anything.
Thanks, Daryl.
Hey, Daryl, thanks. Hey, we'll talk to you soon. Go ahead.
No
And go Cats for you, by the way.
Yeah, fight on.
Thanks. Right. We'll talk to you soon. All right. And Tide Guy, have fun at those parties.
Hey, you guys have a great night. Great show as always.
Adios, Tide Guy.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Tony, could you just bookmark this? I want to go back. I want that sound clip of the real saying fight on.
We're just gonna mix it into like a song, like a rap song. It's just gonna be like the real saying fight on over and over. I like it.
I love you, Daryl.
Maybe set to Dixie. Or no, my old Kentucky home. I think that's what we have to set it.
There you go.
All right, guys, let's bring on real quick. We got two of our regulars here. We've got Larry Pilgrim and Sean Garner. Guys, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Welcome.
What do you guys think about the games coming up this week?
I don't know. I just feel like I'm talking to my future ex-wives. We're selling the house. You guys are leaving you're already in bed with them and you're over. Anyway, sorry, I had to throw that in there, guys. You guys are great.
Well,
Okay,
I'm hoping that the Pac-12 stays healthy and that they're strong.
It's going to.
Hopefully, when things mix up a little bit, there's going to be strong bowl alliances between just beyond the Rose Bowl that we will be playing each other.
Yeah, you guys are great. We can still be friends. I mean, some exes are still friends, so we can remain friends. So,
well, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, and we were going to cover it. Maybe we'll do it a little bit later. But we are looking at we've done the math extensively, and it looks like Pac-12 will be probably fourth in terms of revenue. So Pac-12 is going to stay pretty healthy. We might talk about this later if we have time. But Pac-12 is going to stay financially healthy, and I think they're going to stay competitively healthy as well.
You're fourth, but like those bottom three are
triplets.
Yeah, I mean, they make much of a difference. Games coming up this weekend. For you guys, it kind of sucks. I mean, not many marquee games. There's 5 teams in the initial top 25. None of them are playing each other. But the Washington-Oregon State game will be fun. Will be fun tomorrow night. The games on Saturday, not so much.
Yeah, Sean, that's the point. And this weekend's the SEC's big weekend with Alabama at LSU and Tennessee and Georgia. Yeah. Go figure this. How do you think Kirby Smart is feeling right now, and how jacked up he's going to get his team, knowing that number 1 Tennessee is coming into Athens to play the defending national champions who are not number 1. He's going to get some heat on that bone, rallying his team. So that's going to be a great game. But if you look at November 19th, that's the weekend for the Pac-12. As we earlier mentioned in the show, you're going to have USC at UCLA. You're going to have Utah at Oregon are the 2 marquee games. On the flip side, in the SEC that weekend, you're going to have games such as – hold on a second here. You're going to have Tennessee at South Carolina. UAB is playing at LSU. You have Florida at Vanderbilt, and you have like ETSU playing Mississippi State.
They do that every year. That weekend before Thanksgiving is they have their pre-Thanksgiving feast on
Austin Peay at Alabama.
Yes.
Oh, it's gonna be.
I mean, they find every orphanage and nunnery convent they can possibly find to put in the schedule that week.
So what's going to see is what happens this weekend and how far the SEC teams jump, because the Pac-12 doesn't have marquee games. And on the flip side, November 19th, let's see how much of a bump the winner of the SC-UCLA and Oregon-Utah game get. I don't know how big that bump's going to be, but let's watch for it, because I'm putting it on record right now.
Yeah, I mean that'll be an interesting thing to look out for. Certainly, Utah is kind of an odd man. I have a hard time seeing them playing their way into the playoff conversation with 2 losses, and one of them, of course, being to one of the also-rans in the SEC.
What if Alabama has 2 losses?
What'd you say?
What if Alabama has 2 losses?
If Alabama has 2 losses, they're probably out too. And if anybody has 2 losses, they probably are going to have a hard time getting into the playoff. But if anybody can do it, if the playoffs committee is going to have any sympathy for any of them, it'll be an SEC. It'll be an SEC team with 2 losses, a Pac-12 team with 2 losses. Have fun in the Holiday Bowl, Yeah,
but if Alabama loses, let's say a 1-point game at LSU,
yep,
supposed number 10, miraculously number 10 LSU,
yeah,
you're going to be hovering, in the top 10 still. In my opinion.
Alabama could lose to LSU. LSU could lose another game that would. Actually, this is almost like a de facto SEC West title game now that I think about it.
Well, I don't think any of us will be arguing. I mean, even if it is
No.
a 2-loss Alabama, and it's a
And-
close,
and a
like,
2-loss
you said, a close
Alabama-
loss-
Sorry,
if
go
you have
ahead,
a close
go ahead, Tim.
loss in Baton Rouge, right? Which
And-
is a tough place to play.
Dream-
If they had a close
dream
loss,
scenario.
and they win
Interestingly,
and then
guys-
they end up winning the SEC. Is there anybody
Yeah.
here on this board that if they win the SEC championship game, is anyone
Dream.
going to complain about a 2-loss Alabama being in the playoffs? Right. So
No,
that's my only point.
absolutely not.
But also,
So, I mean, a 2-loss
also they have
Alabama,
not.
it would be.
They have yet to move the SEC West into the Pac-12 North. So, what do we think about the Pac games?
I'm sorry, the Pac games. Okay, I was going to say I have twice this year faded Colorado. I've given huge point totals to Colorado. They're getting 31.5 against Oregon this week, and that it's even though it's in Boulder, that number still seems low to me. I don't know. I mean, does that number seem right or low to you guys?
How much better do you think Oregon's third string is than Colorado? Like, I have no idea because Oregon names its score, but it's whether they want it to be 45 or they want it there or they don't care. They just worry about staying healthy.
Well, are they in a style points race right now? I mean, Tim, you getting bored?
Is anyone going to give style points for beating Colorado, even if you beat him 100-0? I don't know.
Yeah, no. So, but I mean, this weekend's game, I think like I said, I don't know how big of Oregon State's. I think probably clearly in the Pac-12 race right now. So that will be interesting to see if they can go on the road in Seattle and pull that one.
Larry, is there? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was pretty much done.
Larry, I wanted to ask you: is there any concern as a Ute fan of Arizona's ability to move the ball?
Yes and no. Being a Rice Eccles, that noise. I think what's going to help Utah the most is the same thing that helped them at Wazzu. Is I think the defense is starting to come together a little better. And playing at Rice Eccles with that noise, the defense gets a half step on that offensive line, which is already horrible. So I think the defensive line is going to step up. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. Utah's just missing too many offensive weapons, but it's going to be cold. They're coming from Arizona to play in 40 degrees, and the ball is going to, I don't know if you've played in 40 degrees. It's like catching a rock. So I think the weather, the cold, I'm not worried about Arizona too much. If Cam's not playing, I think I'll be a little worried, but I'm going to take a page out of Rick's book, and Kyle Whittingham is too. All USC had to do against Arizona was run the ball and dump off those 5-yard passes up the middle, because Arizona has the worst linebacker rated group in all of the Power 5 conferences. So Utah's just going to run the ball up the middle and dump off. So I think it's going to be a cold, controlled, low-scoring game. So.
Interesting that you think it's low scoring, because the over/under in that game is 68. So pretty strong bet for the under in that one.
You can't. It's hard to throw the ball in 40-degree weather. I mean, yeah. I don't know how to tell people. It's just, I've played football there, and it's Utah's missing their guys, and I think that Utah's defense is going to step up. I would be shocked if Arizona scores more than 21 in this game. I'm thinking it's going to be like a 31-21. I don't think Utah's going to cover 18. I just don't. Because Arizona is going to move the ball. I think they're going to get in trouble in the red zone. That's my prediction. Utah's going to control the clock, go with their linebackers, and that's what I feel is going to happen. But I am looking forward to that UCLA ASU game. The Desert's caught a few teams that were better. So if there was ever a trap game on UCLA, I think this is it.
Chris? Hey Larry, John Wilner agrees with you.
How many teams have went to the desert and died? USC almost did it last week.
I know it happens. It happens. The desert will get you.
I know John Wilner's a huge fan of you guys are fans of John Wilner, but a lot of his takes are way the hell off in my book. So
yeah,
and I don't give him I don't send him to Vegas with money to gamble for me.
Oh, he's got USC at 16 or something like that. So yeah, 14. So I mean,
exactly.
There's one.
And then Oregon State, Washington is definitely. I want to watch that one. Just I think Oregon State, from what I'm understanding, it's going to be just the team who runs the ball better is going to win, because it's not going to be a game where you throw the ball. And Oregon State is a great running team. So I think Oregon State might get the win up there.
Is there like some bad weather expected in that game? Because Washington's got a pretty decent passing game. They both are pretty decent passing teams.
The actual weather phenomenon that is coming through Seattle this week is called the quote is atmospheric river.
That sounds wet.
It's going to be very wet. It's going to be wet on the lake.
And if the weather doesn't help stop Washington's passing game, I think that Oregon State's secondary is more than comparable. And I know we gloss over it because it's two not very great teams, but I do want to point out that like Stanford Wazzu has the potential to be just like a sicko game of the week in terms of like some really weird, gross stuff that happens and having it go back and forth with like ridiculousness. Because Cam Ward is capable of. I mean, I picked Washington State because I don't think Stanford is very good, but Cam Ward is capable of turning the ball over enough in this game to have it actually be a game.
Yeah.
And we lost Connor, who's in the back room and disappeared. Connor, come back. We want to bring you on next. We got to bring you and David on.
Awesome. No,
go ahead.
I just want to say, like you, at this point in the preseason, did you guys think you would have 5 teams in the initial football playoff ranking with 4 of them in the top 14? Sure.
I've been tooting the Beavers horn all year from before the season started. So, I mean,
he has
they could have lost those games earlier in the year in non-conference, and then we're telling a different story about this Oregon State team. But I've liked them for a while, and I'm surprised. I mean, I think they're totally capable of doing this year. And then I think the big one UCLA wise was Washington doing better at the beginning of the year than people might have thought. So that win propped us up a little bit. And then being fortunate enough to beat the Utes, to be a part of the picture when otherwise, if we lose to Utah and Washington's not as good, we're hanging out in bottom of the top 25 or people aren't really talking about us the same way that they are now. With two losses, if we lose to Utah and a Washington team that wasn't as big of a deal as it turned out to be. So I'm a little bit surprised at the fact that there's 4 in the top 15 or so.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised that there's like 5 ranked.
I was going to say, what clicked with UCLA? I was not a believer in them for a while. I still don't know. I'm still waiting for their kind of trademark GAC performance, which could come this weekend. But I mean, like the beginning, not impressive at all against Bowling Green and South Alabama, hanging on there, and now they seem legit.
One thing I would say that why they look so shaky, and like a lot of teams look shaky early, is because there's a lot of new pieces to that UCLA team. And although Chip Kelly has not been recruiting for crap, he has been able to pull in difference makers all over the place. And sometimes, as we all know, it's going to take, because I mean, you can practice and you can be in camp so long and you guys can drill and work on systems. But until you get up to game speed and you get a team playing together, that usually takes 2, 3, 4 games. And they did. I thought I was licking my chops early in the season. Oh man, that's gonna be an easy win. but with every game, they got better. And I don't really. South Alabama is not actually as bad a team as I used to make fun of Chris for. So it's part of it is the fact they have some really great transfers. I'm sure that Chris could probably break them all down for you.
That
Starting with Bobo.
That and then the answer to like what clicked, so to speak, is you have an offensive line that at the beginning of the year people thought had a chance to be like good to decent, but that has lost Sean Ryan to the NFL and wasn't expected to be as good as it was last year necessarily, but ended up being a unit that combined is better, like is better than its individual parts. That unit has done very well, and has allowed DTR as a fifth-year quarterback to actually have the kind of season that he's having and playing as well as he has. If he doesn't have the season that he's had thus far, we're truly just not as good. And if it's someone else, then we're probably a 2 or 3 loss team.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Anything else really quick?
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Sean, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it, and hope to see you next week.
I'll be here.
All right. We'll talk to you then.
Take care.
Larry, anything else real quick?
Nope, just good luck, gentlemen, and hopefully everybody comes out healthy.
All right. Hey, thanks, Larry. Good luck to the Utes.
Good luck.
All right, guys. We got you know what? We got a couple of folks. Wait, let's just bring in the group, have some fun here. We've got friends of the show. We got David Greenshield. We got Connor Johnson. We got Will ND. So, guys, before we do anything, Will ND, who we see here featured as the Leprechaun, is off to South Bend for this game.
There you go.
Are you excited?
I'll be flying out of DC and going to Chicago on Friday morning. Then I'm going to be driving an hour and a half from Chicago to South Bend. So excited for the journey and for the game, to meet some Notre Dame YouTubers I'm sub to, and tailgate, watch Georgia Tennessee, some Pac-12 in there as well. And then, hopefully we pull out the win. Big game for our guys.
And Will, you're doing Mark Rogers' Voice of College Football Notre Dame post game now, aren't you?
Yeah, me and Jordan, we did a nice little, since he's a Clemson fan, we did a little recap of Syracuse, and then we broke down the Irish and the Taters.
Oh, that's going to be fun. If you guys haven't seen that, definitely check it out after the game.
I just want to say, Will, if you need recommendations on beers, come to Rick. He could probably help you out on that front. By the way, excellent suggestions tonight, Rick.
All right.
As always.
LBC knows the beer.
Yes,
it's not
Rick is
not a dry campus.
I don't know if Will's 21.
I am 21.
Also,
April
Notre
14th.
Dame was not a dry campus when I was 16 either, and that was a lot of fun.
Hey, Will, you look a little different tonight. Go back to that, Tony, real quick, the graphic.
Is that because he's not burning in a dumpster?
That's right. He's not in the dumpster fire. Congrats, Will. And,
Will has been removed from the dumpster fire, guys. Everybody in the chat, give a little round of applause emoji for friend of the show, Will ND. Notre Dame with that great win over Syracuse, he is out of the dumpster fire.
Will, I put all my chips on the table. I'm riding on Notre Dame, shaking down the thunder, waking up those echoes one more time, and beating Clemson this weekend.
All right.
Me too, Will.
Hey, by the way, Will, I think you could do a lot of help for the Pac-12 and for the Big 12 this weekend.
No, see, that's just it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely rooting for you and your dad, Will. So let's put it this way. I picked Clemson, but I want Notre Dame in my heart for you. But here's why I'm picking Clemson, because I don't want USC in a playoff. I really don't. I think USC is not ready for the playoff. And this would be the scenario that might actually pull USC closer to going in there and getting, no offense, but Notre Dame in the playoffs.
Tim, you don't have to worry about it anyway.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about it. Don't have to worry about that.
Well,
whatever you guys say, but there is absolutely a path for USC to play in the playoffs.
What about Oregon in the playoff? Do you want them to endure that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The only way SC gets into the playoffs, obviously, would be running the table, including a win, maybe like a winning by at least 17 over Oregon.
Hold on. Did we just hear? Tim, we just heard something breakthrough. I love this. Tim has invented a new guys. Tim has turned being Notre Damed into a verb for the playoffs.
Wow.
I'm here for it, and I love it.
Yeah, I've been using that for a while. But there is that. I mean, anyone that thinks that there's no way that a brand like USC couldn't, things would have to break their way.
Yeah.
But is anyone here telling me that they beat UCLA, they run the table, beat UCLA, and then play the Pac-12 championship game? And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying, and if they beat Oregon by at least 17 points, and the season 12-1 Pac-12 champion with a solid win against a very, very good, a one-loss Oregon team. You're saying you don't think that they get to look
when
over?
I said you don't have to worry about it, I didn't. That's not what I meant. I just meant that that's not going to happen.
No, hey Tim, I personally think that you don't have that bad of a loss. Number one, and then if you close out with that, let's say win over a good UCLA team and a win over a really good Oregon team, I think that's a very solid resume. I just want to ask this though. And I posed this to Mark Rogers last night. With where they positioned TCU, and the committee did that, if TCU runs the table, could they still be in danger of missing the playoff because we need to get a bunch of SEC teams into the playoff? I mean, for instance, if the situation scenario happens what did last year,
remember TCU was rejected for membership by the Pac-12.
Yeah,
we don't have to worry about them.
Well, but I just find it interesting because let's say if last year's scenario repeats itself in Atlanta and one-loss Alabama defeats undefeated Georgia, is there any way that those two teams don't make the playoff?
One person answer, and then let's move back to the pack.
I was just curious. I know you guys did a 12-team playoff last night, and I was just kind of curious to see what your thoughts were.
Yeah, there are a lot of scenarios where you could see 3 SEC teams making it. I mean, that's been laid out with Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama. So we'll have to see what happens this weekend. That's going to tell us a lot.
And one scenario would not be if there's an undefeated TCU and an undefeated Clemson. That's the three. That's a scenario where there's not going to be 3 SEC teams for sure, obviously, because you're going to have most likely the winner of the Michigan OSU game,
right?
And then if you got 2 undefeated teams, you really think they're slotting them in above 2 undefeated conference champions? I just think that'd be. I don't know how we want to work our "we love the SEC, go SEC" magic, but that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, I'm saying that you could have those 2 one-loss teams at the end of the year, and then maybe 3 undefeated teams. Obviously, undefeated Clemson, let's say undefeated TCU, and then the winner of the OSU Michigan game as being the 3rd.
Correct. In that case, you get 1 SEC team, I think.
If there's an undefeated Power 5 champion and they get left out, I don't know what we're doing here.
Exactly, it's broken.
As Lemansky says, segue.
If candy and nuts, back to the pack. Okay. Sorry, Connor, what were you going to say?
I just have a good segue off of David's point to kind of tie it into the Pac-12. I think the most likely scenario are a bunch of one-loss teams. So let's just say Georgia wins out, they're undefeated, they're in. Alabama wins out, but loses the SEC championship, so that's the one-loss non-champ. And then let's say all the 4 other conferences all have a one-loss champ. What's the pecking order of teams after Georgia's in? What's for the other 3, would you say?
Sorry,
Big 12. Alabama have 2 losses.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, so then we could rule them out. So, yeah, a one-loss Big 12, one-loss Pac-12, one-loss ACC champ. I guess would all 3? I mean, there it is right there. Do all 3 of those get in over? Ohio State is in too, undefeated. So then
I would say the Pac-12 would be in the lead in that scenario as the best one-loss team.
I think so too.
Because you take a look at it, Ohio State would have beaten Michigan, Penn State, and let's say Illinois. They've got 3 wins. They also beat Notre Dame. Let's just use USC for argument's sake here. USC has a win against Oregon State. If they stay in the top 25, UCLA, and then it would be Oregon. There would be 3 teams. And that game against Notre Dame is going to be a statement game because that's a common opponent with Ohio State. It's going to be a very critical game. I don't know what Notre Dame's going to be ranked, but Ohio State played Notre Dame at the Shoe, and USC gets them at the Coliseum. So that's going to be a critical game. Where I see some issues is if Oregon's undefeated, because they will always bring up that 49-3 loss to Georgia to start the season. But if you look at the college football playoff rankings, the committee values Oregon. Don't let that stain weak comment be of any importance, because they are the number 2 ranked 1-loss team in the top 25 behind number 6 Alabama. So if that game really mattered all that much, Oregon wouldn't be the second best 1-loss team behind Alabama.
That's very true, LBC. And hey, guys, we got a super chat from Zach. Zach, thank you again. Let's do this, and then let's stop talking about the playoffs, because we've spent a lot of time talking about. Spent so much time talking about SEC. I'm about to vomit grits.
I'm guilty. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. Zach T says, wild scenario here. Illinois wins out and makes the Big Ten championship game. Does one loss Michigan or OSU get the Rose Bowl, or does Illinois? Now, this relates to the Pac-12 because they're probably going to be playing a Pac-12 team. What do you guys think about this one?
I want to. So they're saying if Illinois wins the Big Ten championship game with.
No, I think
it's Illinois. Basically, it's assuming the undefeated Michigan or Michigan State. I'm sorry, undefeated Michigan or Ohio State goes to the playoff. Do you give does the Rose Bowl go to Illinois as the backups, or does as the conference championship loser, or does it go to the team that didn't make it?
Well, this means they beat Michigan, right? Because they play Michigan in the regular season.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that because if Michigan's 11-1 and their only loss is in Columbus and they've already beaten Illinois, then for sure they're in Pasadena next year, or for the Rose Bowl, because at that point Illinois is a 3-loss team, and I think they're taking obviously a different going to a different bowl game at that point.
Yep.
In that scenario. I did want to say no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just thinking, Zach, go ahead. Go ahead, David.
Oh, with my statement, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, my bad. Yeah, I was just wanting to throw out with the Pac-12 this weekend. I do personally think that the game to watch is Washington and Oregon State. I want to see how good Oregon State is this week, but Michael Penix is, man, these numbers he's been throwing up. I mean, with 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions this year. I didn't see your guys' predictions earlier. Are you guys pretty much with the Beavers in that one, by the way? I think Washington State pulls out a close one.
I'm the only one that took the Beavs.
Okay.
Again, if it was in Corvallis, David, I would be all about the Beavs. But I'm sorry, Beaver fans out there, Connor, you guys aren't the same on the road. I don't know. You just aren't the same.
We beat Stanford on the road.
Okay,
we haven't heard a full Connor preview of this. Connor, give us the Connor breakdown.
Yeah. Well, first off, weather update. So the rain, or what do they call it? The river or whatever.
The atmospheric river.
Yeah. So the most recent news is like the stadium might be in a bubble and it might just miss. Like there's still rain in the forecast, but it's not. Earlier in the week, it was 40-mile-an-hour winds. It was a downpour, and now I'm seeing like 10, 15-mile-an-hour winds and less rain in the downtown Seattle area. So depending on what we get, I think if it's the aforementioned, if it's crazy scenario, first off, I hope they have cameras like on the metal roofs to hear the raindrops, and I hope, or audio, and it's just, that would be so much fun just for an all rain game. And because Corvallis, Oregon State, even though we're up here in the Pacific Northwest, hasn't had very many rainy practices, rainy games yet. So we're not as ready as we normally would be this point of the year for a wet game. I think it hurts them more because Phoenix and Washington relies more on the air. We rely more on the ground. With that said, I think that the rain factor probably just kind of it hurts both teams equally, maybe them slightly more. A quarterback update for us, and actually more than just for this Friday, I am of the belief, based off of what I've heard from the coaches, that Branson's going to start this week, but Chance has been practicing now since Monday, I think in a full capacity. And Brian Lindgren was asked yesterday if an injury can lose a starting job, and he said typically no, that it wouldn't lose a starting job. But then he said it was situational, and I think with the way Ben's been playing, he's been getting better every game. That's Branson. Now he is a redshirt freshman, so that's kind of the expectation to get better each game. But from what I've heard from the coaches, he might be the starter going forward, which I don't know how I feel about it, but it probably means that Chance enters the portal for next year. So we're going to rely, though, I think less on Ben in an away game, more so on the run this week, certainly.
What's your predicted score?
I'm hopeful that their defense is bad enough to where we can just outscore them. And I think, in all honesty, this is probably going to be a really tight game and come down to the very end. I mean, we beat them last year, but it was close. I don't want to give a score. I'm hopeful that we win, but I'm 50-50, honestly.
All right. Well, we're rooting for you.
Great game.
Yeah.
It is. It's going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch it tomorrow. Will,
Friday
what's
night. I hope it's big numbers.
I know. I hope so too. I hope it's a fun one. Will, give us your ND Clemson score prediction.
I'm going to go 24-21 Irish on a last-second Blake Grupe kick.
Love it.
I like that. That's a good pick.
Hey,
in fact, Will, you know what? How about this? We'll make you a deal.
Okay.
Last week you were in the dumpster fire. If you beat Clemson, next week you're on a throne.
Yes. As the part-time Irish ACC members will basically take out the ACC from any.
We haven't lost a regular season ACC game since 2017, so that makes me feel good.
There you go.
Better.
Hey, Tony, can I throw out one thing for wagering purposes this weekend in the Pac-12? What does
go for it? Then we got to move on. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go.
Yeah. What do you think? Hey, what does UCLA fan think about the minus 10 in the UCLA Arizona State game, and what do the USC fans think about the over of 61 in the USC Cal game?
So I'll take the UCLA question real quick. I think that we cover, but I think that other people are going to tell you the desert is scary. But the team that we have, this is an ASU team that lost to Stanford, and when Stanford never scored a touchdown against them. They do have some new things, right? Like the quarterback that's starting is a walk-on that is taking the place of the guy that they have been, and he's been better for them. The running back can make some plays. I think they do score on us, but I don't know. 10.5 seems a little low. I mean, who knows? Like, you could always get backdoored. You can, maybe we lay an egg, but this isn't a team that scares me, and it's not a UCLA team that I'm worried about having lose focus in a game against a team that they should beat based on how we came out against Stanford and dominated that game from start to finish. If we had come out kind of lackadaisical against Stanford, then maybe I'd be a little bit more concerned. But I don't think that's how this team approaches games, and I'm really not as worried about it as other people are, which is sort of a death sentence for me to say that, right?
Right.
But that's how I feel.
You said 61 for the over?
Yeah, the over. I'm thinking you guys are at least in the 40s, and they may be close to 20s.
Yeah. I think that 61 is a hard I wouldn't touch that. I don't know. To me, that seems like right around what it's gonna be.
Okay.
I can see the problem is here's my wild card, right? I know, like you said, I know USC is gonna put up points. They are, but I think that we get out to a really early lead, and then what? Do we pull starters? That's why that again, it's I don't really know.
Took the Trojans minus 14 last week. No luck, guys. My bad.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know. You never know with it. And we were talking also, and you're getting to see more normal Pac-12 than we've seen in the last few years. But yeah, wild things happen in the desert. Corvallis and the desert are the place where wild things happen. You never hear you never hear anybody be like Berkeley. That's where crazy stuff happens, because it doesn't. But
hey, nobody mentioned.
I know that Stanford
Delora.
game was pretty crazy in the game. I don't know.
That's true. The band is on the field. That is true. I guess you do have that. And by the way, if anybody's ever been to Cal or Stanford, this is a really stupid thing, but it's an absolute plug that has to happen. The Gilroy garlic fries in any San Francisco stadium are the best thing ever. They're phenomenal. Okay. So anyway,
Connor had a comment. He said nobody mentioned Delora. We did talk
we're
about
talking quarterbacks.
Right. We were talking about him in that game, how he was sick. Him and his receivers making one-handed catches all over the place.
I would put him closer to I would list him in the top 3, I think. If I out of all the quarterbacks in the Pac-12, he might be the guy that I would want, honestly. He's got the it factor. There's something about him that the other guys maybe don't have.
He's also capable of blowing up.
Yes, he makes a lot of bad throws that end up in picks. He had that issue last year. You're seeing it again this year. That might be a function of the team.
It might just be needing to throw to catch up.
Right. He knows he needs to make a play for his team, to make it happen. And he doesn't have as many skilled players surrounding him per se as like an Oregon or a USC or UCLA. But
a bit of a line.
Skill players this year with Arizona, they just don't have a defense. That's a different issue.
Rick, did you say Bo Nix and Heisman candidate in the same sentence earlier? Was that you?
No, I didn't. But
okay,
I'll agree with that statement. I didn't get to my top quarterbacks, but I have it as Caleb, Bo Nix, and DTR.
Okay.
Oh, Rick, I'm sorry. I thought you did it. My bad.
Oh,
Penix fourth or.
If we're back on the quarterback talk, I thought something after the fact too, and I was going to throw this to Chris and to all you guys. But so we're talking about what Penix would do, the difference, that he might not make that Washington team who they are. What happens when you put Bo Nix on that Washington team without that awesome offensive line? Do we see bad Bo Nix when he gets pressured and makes some bad throws?
You could.
Yeah. I've never seen a lot of bad Bo Nix before.
So I just thought about when I was looking at the power rankings, I'm thinking, these guys, not their actual offense, but as a quarterback, who would I want to see? Definitely, I guess I gave a really specific because how often do you have that situation? But if you have a quarterback, you need to score.
They're actually similar to me. Those two, similar frame, body size, athleticism, wildness a little bit. But any quarterback in a divorce is Penix and Bo. Nix and Penix, the Nix brothers.
Yeah, Bo's ability to run has been a huge part of what Oregon does offensively, and I don't think that Penix is that kind of quarterback.
Maybe not as athletic,
but he doesn't run the ball quite as much.
He doesn't leave.
He has a much better arm.
Run for first down, but he has the ability to leave the pocket, kind of similar to where Bo is on Oregon. I think I was so down on Dillingham because of where he's been in the past. And then after the first game, I was like, okay, this guy can't, change during a game or run an offense. But I was wrong, I'll admit, about Dillingham. With Nix, I think I expected that if Dillingham did his job, that this was capable. for Knicks because the Pac-12 defenses aren't as good as the SEC defenses. But yeah, I gotta give it up to Dillingham.
I'm sorry, Connor. That was a pretty
coach
special
looks.
display of defense I saw in the desert last week. It was
From,
SEC level defense. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, from SC. I'm
just teasing out. That was atrocious.
Best defense in the Pac-12. I think we're second. Utah's. Yeah,
Washington State's secretly up there, but they also have some issues on offense, I think.
Yeah, Wazzu's kind of being forgot about. They could win the rest of their games.
I think they could, and I think they could lose them too.
They probably should have beat Oregon. How different was this? What would we talk about right now if Washington State had actually beaten the Ducks in Martin Stadium? They really fell apart. I mean, in order to lose that game, a lot literally had to break the right way for Oregon. And hats off to Oregon, they did it, right? They did it, but
looking at Bo Nix too, he's got 11 rushing TDs. Yeah. That's where he's critical.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
See, the one
more
thing
than
with him,
Coletto.
Yeah, he always could usually have that throw where he throws it into coverage or tries to, make something happen that's not there. That's what I always remembered him from his Auburn days as.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that throwing into coverage or, I'm going to make a play out of nowhere and it doesn't always turn out well.
Well, you know who we won't be able to do that on are my Beavers. We will expose that. So
they will.
Oregon fans are counting their chicken. They have to go to Utah at home and then up to back-to-back games. It's probably the hardest back-to-back slate.
And don't forget Washington. They have Washington at home.
True.
Utah.
Oh, that's their last three.
Yeah, those last three. That's going to be cool.
And then if they do survive that, then the championship game. I mean, they could lose one of those and still make the championship game. But I think they do lose one of them. I mean, the odds of them losing one of those.
It's against the Beavers. They're going to take two body blows. I think they're going to beat Washington and Utah at home. And then they go to Corvallis. And they're not going to have anything left.
Connor, how wild is Reeser going to be when the Ducks come to town?
Well, half a stadium. I mean, I might sneak over to a bunch of people might sneak into the other side just to get, tickets because it's been sold out since before the season even started. It'll be wild. And I hope, I want this first, I want Dan Lanning to know what's up because he talks like his school is all that in a bag of whatever candy. But yeah, he's gonna learn with half the stadium that we don't necessarily like them. And I mean, he's played in rivalry games before at Georgia, but
he hasn't played against an Oregon State team that's winning 10 games this year.
10 win Oregon State. Well, we got to beat UW first. So.
Yeah, by the way, how did Washington lose to Arizona State? I didn't even watch that game, but I was a little surprised that thing turned on them.
It was a shootout.
Yeah, I saw it was 40 in the 40s. Boy, there's an over worth taking, but I would have thought maybe they had to turn the ball over, like a zillion times to lose to Arizona State.
The walk-on that's playing against UCLA that also played against Colorado played in that game and had 3 touchdowns and 1 interception and played pretty well. And they scored and they moved it. And then in that Stanford game they lost, that walk-on didn't play. And now he's playing again. I think that's part of the story, at least. I don't think it's the entire story, but it's part of it.
It's a good take, Chris. It's a good take.
Yep.
Well, why were they starting Emory Jones? It's funny because Arizona held walkout or tryouts when they were so bad. And so this kid probably was just a college kid who played in high school and just tried out, and now he's the starter. I mean, or no, I'm thinking of Arizona, not Arizona State. Sorry. But yeah, Emory Jones. So not all SEC quarterbacks can just come and start here. Says something.
Remember, it matters more there, though.
But Pac-12 quarterbacks can go to the SEC to start.
So yeah, and then they get ranked in the top 10.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens,
Yeah, how did they not know that Jake Daniels he's a stick and he's way overrated?
Exactly.
I don't get it.
He's inconsistent, and he's had a couple good games, but he ain't.
Where would LSU be without him, Rick? You know what I mean?
Right, but I don't see him We'll find out this Saturday, but I don't see him beating.
What would he be if he was still in the Pac-12? The 7th, 8th best quarterback?
Exactly.
You know what's crazy? I don't know if you listened to Uncle Lou's, big Georgia fan. He was praying for Georgia to play Daniels last year over Stetson Bennett. Praying to play Daniels over Bennett last year. He was never the biggest Stetson Bennett fan in the world. Now, I don't know if he flipped on that after winning the national title, but that may be a different discussion with him. I haven't talked to him lately.
We're talking about a different Daniels.
Yeah, different Daniels.
Okay. I'm
Daniels.
Jaden Daniels.
Okay, my bad. I thought you were talking the former Daniels USC
ASU.
quarterback.
Old ASU. Jaden Daniels at LSU right now.
Okay. I thought you were talking about the USC Daniels.
And he was an average ASU quarterback.
Yeah.
Small.
And he wouldn't be in the top half of the conference for sure this year. I mean, he's not as good as Delora, I don't think.
No.
Daniels.
No.
So I don't know. We probably have the best quarterbacks now that I'm thinking about it, in college football, which is how it should be, right?
Yeah, there was talk at the beginning of the year that the ACC, arguably had the best quarterbacks, but that hasn't happened.
Well, no, I think the two best
quarterbacks
quarterbacks outside of the Pac-12 right now, I think, are both two Southern California quarterbacks as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Stroud
and Bryce Young.
Stroud and Bryce Young. So I mean,
Yeah, I wonder if LA schools leaving will affect that, or maybe the rest of the Pac-12 will get more of those Southern California quarterbacks.
Well, here's something that Chip Kelly said in the press today, this week. He was saying he doesn't like these 7:30 games because it doesn't give their players the exposure that they deserve. And that's going to be, specifically talking about DTR and possible Heisman. I think that's what he was insinuating, but he's right. And he said, look, there's no highlights, because when the game's over at 11 o'clock, basically ESPN is now featuring the NFL. So nobody gets to hear what's going on, or see or hear what's going on with the Pac-12. So if anything, by UCLA and USC, they're going to be able to get, going to the Big Ten. There's 3 opportunities for network windows with CBS, Fox, and NBC with the Big Ten. So you're going to get more coverage, more exposure.
By the way, in light of our earlier conversation, Tony and Rick, about UCLA and the Wildner and Klishnikov, talk of UCLA holding them back from going to the Big Ten and whatnot. I think it's in the same way that I think Wilner and another guy, Canzano. Thank you. I always forget his name. I want to throw an R in there. Are kind of like, holding water, like carrying the water for the conference in terms of getting info out they want. I wouldn't be surprised if Martin Jarman came over to Chip and gave him a little nudge and said, this week, in light of all this other stuff coming out, say some nice things about why it's going to be good going to the Big Ten, just to put that counterweight out there.
Well, I think Canzano and Wilner are carrying all the weight for the narrative in the Pac-12, because Kliavkov is not as present as the Big 12 guy is. Like, Canzano had a piece about Gonzaga becoming a basketball-only school, obviously, for the Pac-12, and then Kliavkov never said anything about it. And Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, just met with the Gonzaga AD or Mark Few or somebody about bringing him in. It's like, why are we having our journalists doing the job, pushing the narrative? And I know that's part of journalism, but like, Kliavkov is barely doing a better job than the last guy right now. Like, I know we love Kliavkov, or we have, but like, he's got to be in front of a camera.
Is he really?
Wait,
here's
Connor,
the thing,
hold on. Connor.
No,
wait. No, that cannot stand. No. Larry
No.
I don't think he's. I don't think he's doing much better of a job.
He's doing exponentially better job. First of all,
why? Because the thing is hurting the Pac-12.
Yeah, the last guy was hurting the Pac-12. Let's also think one of the big things that Kliavkov is doing, which is a very Pac-12 thing. The Pac-12 schools are elite research institutions. They don't mouth off in the paper to try to like get little like dong measuring points. one of the crazy things that we found, this is true, and I am thrilled for the Big 12 commissioner. Is awesome. I think he's doing a great job for them. But like, he's also they're also pushing narratives that are kind of nonsensical. The Big 12 will finish, and this is not really in doubt right now, 5th among the Power 5 conferences in revenue. Now that's going to be pretty much tied with the ACC, tied with the Pac-12. But they were spouting off all kinds of nonsense. They've been spouting off all kinds of nonsense, trying to act like they were going to take Arizona schools who wanted nothing to do with them. Absolutely nothing to do with them.
I've seen you in the realignment Twitter.
What?
I've seen your name in the realignment Twitter.
Yeah,
realignment Twitter is wild.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that a lot of that is just nonsense, and so the Pac-12 is not playing in that nonsense because you know what? The University of California, arguably the most important public educational institution in the history of man, is not delving into like dong measuring on Twitter, and neither is Stanford. Stanford could eat all 12 of the Big 12 schools, eat them, burp, and still be hungry for breakfast and not notice.
No, I know.
And so, I mean, as a result, I mean, due respect to the Big 12, we're taking out Texas. Texas would be a full main course for Stanford, but everybody else, they could burp and still be hungry for breakfast. And so, guys, the thing is they don't play those games. And it's okay, and it's good that they don't play those games because that's just not their style. Washington, we give an example. Let's talk about Gonzaga because I actually just got a tweet. Stuart Mandel. I love Stuart Mandel, but he just tweeted at me, he disagrees. He tries to argue with me why Gonzaga would bring value to the Pac. The Pac is about research institutions. The University of Washington spent $1.7 billion a year on research. Arizona spends $760 million. Oregon State is what? 300 million? 400 million, something like that. Lowly Oregon, the worst of the Pac-12, is 115 million. Do you know what Gonzaga spends in research? 500 grand. I think and I don't have data on this. I believe every Pac-12 school spends more on campus flowers than Gonzaga spends on research. Gonzaga has fewer kids in their entire school than most Pac-12 schools have in like their nursing program. So it's just not on the level. And the thing is, the Pac-12 schools, they don't play that game because that's not how they operate. You guys saw Dr. Chilton. Is she going to like get out there and like try to like play these like stupid games on Twitter? No. So like, anyway, I'm sorry. Not to be a
I teed you up for that.
Yeah, I just get the thing. They don't do the nonsense. They are behind the scenes making it happen, and are going to make more money than the conference.
They're behind the scenes. I know that he's behind the scenes. I guess I'm more worried about losing the opportunity of getting a San Diego State and the opportunity of getting a Gonzaga because the Big 12 is just going to
Gonzaga has no value to the Pac-12. Absolutely none. Gonzaga has a one very good value to the Big 12. Zero value to the Pac-12. None. Because you know what? We already own all the market in Washington. It's one team who's been good in one sport under one coach, and that's it in its history. Now, I have a lot of friends who went there. It's a great school. It is not a Pac-12 caliber school. If we're going to do that, we should go get University of New Mexico. We should go get, like, I don't know, Utah Valley College, whatever. Like, there's no value. St. Mary's. Like,
well, UCLA just keep taking assistant coaches, and they'll be fine. We'll use them as a farm system for head coaches in basketball. That's all we'll do.
Guy. So
anyway, but however, one thing real quick, Big 12 fans, Gonzaga has a great advantage to you in the Big 12, and that is that BYU is a Western island on its own. And so there is a huge advantage, strategic, not financial. Financial Gonzaga is worth nothing, but strategic advantage to BYU in having a regional travel partner and regional rival. Yeah, so Big 12 folks, I think that's a brilliant idea for you guys. Doesn't make any difference for the Pac-12. We're good on the state of Washington.
Gonzaga is going to have to fly to Orlando for baseball. That's the furthest point away possible that I could imagine.
Yeah,
Spokane,
and you have to get from Orlando to Spokane.
Yeah, that's in the lower 48. That's literally the furthest point I could think of.
I got news for you. Look at the periodic table, guys. Berkelium and Californium. It costs you more money to get an element of berkelium or californium from Cal Berkeley than Gonzaga spends on research. They're not putting that school at the table next to them with an equal vote.
Wow.
Last point to you guys. I just want to say.
And then we got to go. Sorry, we got to move on. I didn't mean
That's
to
okay. I just can't wait until USC and UCLA joins the conference. I've said that before as a Big Ten person. And you guys, by the way, a lot of you guys did not like Larry Scott. I want to also echo, I'm not the biggest Kevin Warren fan in the world. I think a lot of Big Ten.
That's a hot take.
Well, there was a lot of Big Ten people that I don't know if you heard didn't like the way
Yeah.
he answered the whole 2020 season, which went over about as well as a fart in church.
Yes.
So, that was not good. But Jim Delaney was a hell of a commissioner, though. I thought he did do a good job. But
2020 really backs up what Tony says about what's important to some of these institutions, right?
That's right.
Football doesn't move football is amazing for a number of the Pac-12 and obviously the Big Ten, but these are two academic conferences. And so us trotting our football teams out when there's any kind of uncertainty, granted, it turned out it was probably very unnecessary the how far we went with it. We're not going to get too political here, but it does appear now that it was probably maybe a little too much.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
they'd rather air too much.
Football only, right? And Tony's laid that out a million ways, and it's no wonder why the two conferences said, well, maybe we should wait and see what happens before we start doing it. Maybe show some caution. We're the ones that didn't rely on our entire budget.
Last point on that, Tim, though, were you surprised at all that the South just went along their merry way, though?
No, David.
No, because they have to.
Well, okay.
Football's religion down there.
Actually,
Well,
David,
it's financial. Tony can
budgets.
explain it. Tony can explain it. It's financial.
Yeah.
So David, actually email me if you want, or Twitter
Okay.
DM me or whatever. I have we have a whole slide deck we walked through before on this. It's called "Do You Care as Much as the SEC?"
Yeah.
And what it
Reverend
actually
Tony
does
will give you the gospel truth on all that stuff. Trust me.
Yeah, we actually broke down about for every school, every school, all including G5, everybody, how important the money, the profits that come from football are to your overall campus budget.
Okay.
And it was an average of SEC average equals 100. UCLA was what, 11? I think Michigan was 22. Ohio State was probably like 29. Oklahoma was like 160.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, that's what made all of us Big Ten people think is, well, a certain percentage of us Big Ten people think at that particular period of time is you could see where it mattered and, where it didn't.
Yeah. And the thing is when you look at the money, when you follow the money, you see that it's all about the money.
Well, that's
not always, again, it's not always a bad thing because those are billions of dollars. And that's the same thing with, I mean, literally, guys, when you look at all the stuff about Gonzaga, remember, there's no question Stanford probably spends 3 times as much on flowers as Gonzaga spends in research.
We got a couple of people backstage.
On the back. We gotta go. Tim's right.
An hour. We've gone past 2.5 hours, and we got a couple people waiting.
You're right. We got guys waiting.
Thank you,
Hunter
guys.
and David, anything quick, real quick?
Thank you,
I'm
guys.
gonna give my score prediction.
Give it to me.
31 Beavs.
Go Beavs.
Go.
Good job, Connor.
Good luck, Connor.
Sorry, Connor.
You guys. Bye.
Tim, thank you for getting me off the soapbox. All right, real quick, we got Austin and Michael. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Hey, being that you guys are ramping up, is it okay if I bring my take in on Sunday night since you guys are wanting to get out of here and stuff? Because it's kind of a poll question is what it is. I mean, I can come back Sunday for and stuff if that would be all right.
Is it a Pac-12 question?
Yes, it is.
Go for it real quick.
Oh, you're really quiet. Can you get closer to your mic?
I'm using my wireless earbuds. So anyway, hopefully you can see better. Anyway, okay. Coach of the year: Kyle Willingham, Dana Lanning, Chip Kelly, or Lincoln Riley. Pac-12 Coach of the year.
Who was your second choice? Your second name?
Dan Lanning.
Dan Lanning. Okay.
Dan Lanning.
So with USC at 4-8, I give it to Lincoln Riley.
Well, what can you repeat? I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing.
Coach of the year for the
Coach of the year for the Pac-12.
USC, Lincoln Riley, 4-8, yeah.
I would say
no-brainer.
whoever wins the Pac-12 championship game, that's who's going to be Coach of the year.
I think that Oregon and UCLA had a bit of a head of start. I mean, USC was an absolute train wreck last year. He walked into an absolute mess. He instantly brought us out of the dumpster, and into making us a contender. Oregon won 10 games last year?
Yeah, but the
I can't
difference
remember. And I know
the
you say it was
difference
8-4.
Lanning, the difference between Dan Lanning and Mario is like so exponential.
Yeah.
I like Dan Lanning is so good. I can't express enough how much, not just that like the Oregon team beat UCLA, but how much better that staff ran that game against UCLA than the UCLA staff did. Dan Lanning is by far the top coach to me in the Pac-12. Like I can't see Monday through Friday what practice looks like, and I think it's hard to say as a fan to divorce like in-game management versus like what kind of coach you are Monday through Friday, which is important. But in terms of like coaching decisions on a Saturday and what the team has done, Dan Lanning is by far my number one coach in the Pac-12.
Now, Chris, I want you to, can we revisit this on November 19th, sometime around maybe 10:30 at night?
Yeah, that's fine, but I'd still put Lanning number one over the course of body work compared to, and again, I'm not talking about Monday through Friday because I don't have the glimpse into that and like what a guy does to prepare his team to play and what the guy has done, over the course of the team, like the last 6 months or a year in terms of bringing people in, et cetera. And sure, Riley, I'm sure has done a great job doing those things. But in terms of like what happens from like a game management perspective and use of timeouts and play calling and just like running a game, the Oregon staff is very, 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 very good. And I hate to say that because I wish they had Mario, because if they had Mario still, you could count on them to throw a game away that they shouldn't, just based off of making coaching mistakes. And they haven't done that.
Okay, a couple quick things, fellas. First for Chris, and then USC. Chris, does it concern you at all that you're going to the desert just like Oregon did in 2019, where their playoff hopes died? Does that concern you any?
We have our own history in the desert too, I'm sure. But I'm personally not, just because of, again, I keep pointing to the Stanford game, and it's not that like I didn't expect us to beat Stanford, because I did, but it was the way in which we did it and the way we went about our business. This team, like culture wise, I just don't see them being the kind of team that loses focus against the team that is not as good as them, that they should beat. Who knows? College football is crazy. Things can happen. And I was kind of talking about this game as being like a game I was scared of a few weeks ago. But then like I look back on it too, and part of it is like Arizona State's had a little bit of a resurgence, but some of that is like, beating a Colorado team. I mean, they did beat Washington, but they also lost to like a very bad Stanford team. I don't think that they're better than they were at the beginning of the year. The quarterback is better than who they had playing before. They're capable of scoring, but this UCLA team isn't the kind of team that I think I don't think they'll overlook anyone, because it's a bunch of guys that lost all kinds of games when they were sophomores and juniors, and now as redshirt seniors want to run the table. So I don't think they look past people, but they also like the focus that they had against Stanford and the way they dominated the game. It could have been a lot worse than it even was on the scoreboard, and it wasn't good on the scoreboard. They just took care of business, and I think they take care of business again.
Okay, real quick for the USC guys. Should USC take care of California easier than they did Arizona?
Yes.
Yes.
At home, the game's not at Arizona, and I think Cal is less of a team than Arizona. We talked about it earlier. Their offensive line is suspect. Their offense is erratic, and USC is their offense against Cal's defense. We're going to score points, and Cal is not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, the Cal's not going to be able to. They're not as explosive on offense as you saw with Arizona.
Yep.
It's at home, like they both said. That's huge, and their defense isn't. Wilcox is known for defense. They're in the bottom quarter in defense in almost all the categories, especially against they're like one of the worst teams in the Pac-12 against the pass. I think that Caleb and the boys light it up early.
And I think part of that, Tim, is because that defense has had to basically shoulder a lot of the workload on that team because the offense is so inept. They've had to work hard to keep them in games. The course of the season,
saw it last year, right?
Yeah, they played.
We saw that last year.
They played 8 games, and so that defense is going to start to break down. And you could see USC really putting a ton of points. I think I called it. I think it's going to be a breakout game. We're going to blow them away.
Appreciate the time, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Enjoy your night.
Hey, thanks, Austin.
Thank you, Hoagie.
All right, I'm gonna get out, but I posted something in there, and hopefully I can come back in Sunday night and stuff like that. But guys, because I want to ask Tony a question about the Stanford tree. I can wait Sunday night. Anyway, have a good night, guys.
Okay, what's your question, real quick? You have a quick question about the tree?
Yeah, but I can wait till Sunday night for it. Cause I know you guys.
You can just do it right now if you want, real quick.
This is the show for it. This is the Pac-12 show.
Yeah, this is the Pac-12 show. We don't really do it on Sunday.
What happened on the tree? What's the tree?
Oh, you just if you Google on the Stanford you can just Google about it. They came out with a banner that said Stanford hates fun, and they showed that they do in fact hate fun by postponing the tree, or by suspending the tree.
All right, the other stuff I can wait till later and stuff like that for. It's just like I just.
Okay, yeah, just if you Google, you'll see it, like the Stanford the Stanford Daily or whatever has lots of articles.
All right,
thanks, Michael.
All right, thanks, Michael. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Austin.
Thanks, Austin. All right, guys. Oh, sorry we've gone over our time, but it's been fun. I think we had a lot of great discussions. Thank you to everybody who called. We really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun tonight. So, guys, any final thoughts? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. It's going to be a great weekend in the Pac-12. We'll get to see how some of these teams do against lesser opponents. Can they continue their dominance, such as Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Utah? But the game to really watch which is intriguing, is Oregon State and Washington. What's the weather going to be like up there? You got 2 6-2 teams, both looking to make their statement in the Pac-12 and play into hopefully a better bowl game. And, for Oregon State, can they make it to win 10 games? Likewise for Washington. So that is going to be a great game featured on Friday night. Looking forward to seeing that and enjoying another great weekend of college football. Thanks to all of our viewers that came in and made comments and the super chat. Thanks to our callers. And most of all, hey, thanks to my hosts, Tim, Tony, and Chris, TBM. Love you guys. And good luck to your teams. Fight on.
Yeah, well, just to echo again, I think a lot of people have jumped off the Pac-12 bandwagon over the past couple of months that were there. I still think there's a lot of great games. On a personal note, I'm going to be there to watch probably Cal, possibly for the last time in the Coliseum. That's going to be kind of weird for me to say that right now. And as always with the Pac-12, there's going to be some crazy stuff going on. Although there's some really large point spreads this week. If anyone knows about the Pac-12, that really doesn't mean much of anything. So I'm probably looking for one of these teams that we think is going to win and maybe even win easily. Going to be a dogfight and possibly lose. So again, thank you to all you guys, Chris, Rick, and Tony, for making all this go. And all you Pac-12 fans, let's hear from you next week. We're still waiting for. We had an Arizona fan yet? Somewhere out there, there's got to be an Arizona or Arizona State fan that want to come here and talk to us. Maybe even a Colorado fan if you're brave enough. So thanks again. Thank you to Mark Rogers for giving us a chance to talk and giving all of us Pac-12 refugees a voice. And I'll see everybody next week.
The obvious game of the week, right, is Oregon State, Washington, and I think we've talked about that a ton. I'm looking forward to Friday. We still haven't had that quintessential chef's kiss Pac-12 ridiculous ridiculous loss by a team that's not supposed to lose. That's a double-digit favorite. Hopefully pride doesn't come up before the fall for me talking about the way I think this UCLA team will handle Arizona State. But we haven't had that kind of game yet. And, maybe this weekend is the weekend we see it. There's a couple spots where I think it's possible and a couple spots where I think it's less likely, but we've hashed that out. Thanks to everyone for calling in and for chatting. I love it every week. I love doing this, and it's a real good time. So I'd like to thank everyone. Thank the other people that do the show, especially Tony, for putting these slides together every week and making this production on what it is. Thanks everyone, and good luck to everyone's teams.
Hey, Tony, you're on mute. Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, that was embarrassing. Thank you, Tim. Hey, I want to thank you guys and everybody who calls in the chat and everybody who called in, especially because it's really about you guys, and we love getting to know all of you guys. Most of you guys don't know this, but I work every summer with an undergraduate leadership institute where we work with kids from 250 different colleges around the country. And I've done it for about 20 years now. And so when I look at all these different schools around the country, I think about the people from them. The Baylor kids and my Texas Tech kids and my Oklahoma kids. I lived in the Oklahoma dorms for a couple of weeks once. So, things like that are all about people. And the great thing about this show is it's also all about people. When we look and we think about Connor from Oregon State and we think about Larry from Utah and all you guys who call in from everywhere, it's really just a privilege and an honor to get to spend time with you guys and get to know you guys. And I got news for you. As long as they're not playing SC, we cheer for your teams. So thank you to all of you. And also a special thank you to Mark Rogers, because he has just done an amazing job creating this community here in the Voice of College Football. And we are all blessed and lucky to be a part of it. So thank you guys for another week. Once again, I hope all of your teams, whoever they are, play hard and do well. And as always, fight on.